afternoon and welcome to News Central TV. You are still watching The Ballot. Today, all eyes are on the Ekiti Governorship Election and 5 critical by-elections across Nasarawa, Ondo, Enugu, Rivers and Kano. While these contests will produce new elected representatives, they are also serving as a major test of Nigeria's electoral process ahead of the 2027 general polls. This afternoon, our focus is not on who is winning, but on whether the process is working.
Well, exactly, Dapo, I must say, because by midday we did see that the campaign has been over and the process has taken center stage in terms of elections. Now, are polling units opening on time? Is the BVAS technology functioning efficiently? Are voters turning out? Are women, young people and persons living with disabilities participating freely? And are security agencies maintaining a peaceful environment? Those are the questions shaping today's national conversation.
Of course, joining the conversation this afternoon, we have our guest that will help us assess whether today's elections are meeting the standards expected of a credible democratic process. We'll also do a cross live or move across to our reporters stationed across all 6 election locations for real-time updates from the field.
And yes, of course, from Ekiti, we'll also be examining turnouts, logistics, competitiveness, and any reported incidents that might occur. In Nasarawa also, we'll assess voting patterns across rural and urban communities. Also in Ondo South, which will bring us some unique logistical challenges as we are thinking it would be in areas that are either riverine or coastal. But then we will get into all those places and bring you all the details. Also in Enugu North, we'll gauge voter enthusiasm and youth participation. Now, you must also know that our coverage also takes us to Rivers Southeast, where security and voter confidence remain key issues. And Kano's Dawankin Kudu, our federal constituency, will also be monitoring that particular area, even as we look at it from the angle of BVAS performance, polling efficiency, and turnout.
Beyond the numbers, today's broadcast asks the bigger questions. Is voter turnout encouraging enough to strengthen democratic legitimacy? Is BVAS reinforcing confidence in the electoral process? Are election officials responding promptly to technical challenges? And are reports of delays, vote buying, or security incidents isolated, or do they point to a wider concern? Well, it's a bumper pack show this afternoon, and of course it's a special coverage of the Ekiti Governorship Election and the by-elections across parts of Nigeria. My name is Dapo Adegboye.
And I'm Lekan Onabanjo. Let's let you know that Mark Adebayo, Chairman, Pan-Nigerian Civil Society and Opposition Alliance, joins us live from our Abuja studios. Thank you so much, sir, for coming around.
And we also have with us in the studio Anjolaya Olalekan. Is of course a member of the ADC and also an aspirant, doing the recently concluded primaries. Well, it's great to have you. Is with us here in Lagos. Thank you for your time, gentlemen. Let's get straight to it. A lot has happened already. This is just a few minutes after 12. I've seen drama.
Of course. It's bound to happen anyway.
It's bound to happen anyway, true. We've seen drama firsthand. News Central is on ground, so we've seen drama at some point. But let me ask you, I think part of what has been noticed in Ekiti is the issue of vote buying and voter intimidation. Are you surprised? Let me start with you, Mr. Lekan.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. The system in Ekiti, the government in Ekiti have weaponized poverty.
Weaponized poverty?
Yeah, it didn't start today. It started, way back, even when Fayose was governor. The Amala politics, that's where it came from. That's Diboko Sebe, So, it's worse. Now that the economic situation of the country is at a very terrible state, people just want to survive. So we might not get the best of their intention in this pool, right? So I'm not surprised that vote buying is the order of the day.
How about you, Mr. Mark Adebayo? All that we have seen, in less than just a few hours that this election has kicked off.
It's going to be tough because it's going to be highly competitive. There has been some agitation in the Ekiti state for the southern part, the south senatorial district of the state to produce the governor. There's been some agitation in that respect. And you will recall that Dr. Wole Oluyede of PDP is from that senatorial district, including the ADC governorship candidate, Ambassador Dari Bejide. So there has been some clamor for the South to produce the produce the governor that they claim that they have been marginalized for so long, and they have been running on that campaign. And the current governor of the APC is running on the area of infrastructural development, the Ekiti flyover and some other rural. So these are the dynamics that are going to take place. Ekiti State, of 4,017,000 people in population, we have a registered voter of 1,059,000 plus. Registered voters, 1,020,000 of those have collected their PVCs. How that one translates into the turnout, into the further turnout today is left to be seen. But we can see that early enough, you see some turnout, not impressive yet, but that's the normal thing in Nigerian election processes. As time goes on, you see more people coming out. But the menace of vote buying and vote selling is quite, it's more or less a constant denominator in the Nigerian electoral process, that at the level of civil society, a lot needs to be done, and at the level of the political parties that are supposed to be the first to engage in political education of the electorate, a lot needs to be done. And our people need to be mobilized to vote for integrity, to vote for competency, to vote for development, to vote for security, to vote for competency above all. Competency above all, instead of clamoring for things that, vote buying, the electoral process in Nigeria have been, mostly prebendalized. It's a prebender politics, and it's due to multifarious factors. The people ourselves must decide and determine that, look, we are going to vote for people on the basis of their capacity, on the basis of their patriotism, on the basis of their pedigrees, and not what we can get, not instant gratification, aka stomach infrastructure. And that is what we have been advocating for all this while. And of course, to eschew violence in any manner or form, not allow violence to becloud our sense of judgment and to becloud the integrity of our electoral process. And today's election also is a litmus test for the BVAS that is now a legal must in our electoral processes. And I believe INEC should be on top of its game to display its capacity to be able to manage our elections electronically into this Ekiti State Governorship Election. I wish the Ekiti State citizens and Nigerians at large the best of luck into this. And I think INEC will want to prove a point by doing well today.
Okay, so talking about proving a point, let's pick it from the angle where he said that this particular election would be a litmus test for the 2027 general elections. We're seeing that BVAS, which is part of the major technology to be used in processing this election, will be coming into play. But then do you have confidence in the eventual outcome, whether or not there are malpractices within the process? Do you think the use of technology can still live above all and make us have something credible?
So I think that something is happening, because we can hear from some of the live feedbacks from Ekiti. Someone was saying that, we had 80 people on the queue, and for hours we still have just about 6 people that have been accredited. I think that the BVAS software seems outdated. Our institution, they seem very unserious, because even the mobile app that we get to use gets to update itself, almost every 90 days. The glitches that existed even when Mahmoud Yakub was there is still the same that we're experiencing today. Particularly, I'm disappointed that, that technology have not been upgraded, right? I believe that it's just like a tab, right? That technology has no reason for malfunction. But this country, when they're trying to, make things difficult for the electorate, these are the reports that we're going to be getting, right? In 2026, it's not supposed to be a conversation that there are glitches, the BVAS is slow, or the BVAS is not coming up. that is a tab. The BVAS is synonymous to a tab, right? All of us, I mean, even an Aboki selling suya has an OP account. A lot of the traders that didn't even go to the 4 walls of school or class, you know, have OP accounts. Feedbacks, I mean, transfer of money are instant.
So I mean, it's really sad, and it's sometimes pretty much even annoying when issues like this come up, and we are back to talking about technological itch. Yet, I mean, this same technology is what some people use to conduct multi-million-naira businesses.
Of course.
Right? And it's seamless. Just yesterday, before these elections happened, we had the wreck of Ekiti, and also the spokesperson to the chairman of INEC on Politics HQ. And I asked them specifically, I said, on this election, can you assure Nigerians that there will not be glitches, there will not be hitches? And I particularly directed that question to both of them, and I told them on a scale of 1 to 10. The spokesperson said 10. There will not be challenges. And I said, wow, that's tall. He said, yes, 10. The rec said everything had been sorted, about, say, maybe 80%. It was just small, trying to put it up. I brought up that question because at the end of the day, we know these peculiarities. Yes, there are bound to be issues, but we are talking about moving forward. We are talking about monies being spent. So I think maybe at some point, after elections like this, financial audit needs to be done for agencies like INEC. You cannot pump billions of naira into an election and then come back to tell Nigerians that it's the same problems that happened 3 years ago, 5 years ago, that we are still... What did you do with the funds?
Now,
These are real questions.
Yes, he raised a critical statement saying that it seems as though there's been some sort of negligence on the part of the handlers.
So if it's training, if it's training, right? Are you telling me that it took you how many years to plan for this election? You couldn't get that right?
Let's put that question. Let's ask Mark.
Yes, Mr. Mark. Sorry.
What do you think? What do you think about this, Mark? Yes, we have a correspondent, Victor Mbadike, who has been monitoring the election, but we'll bring him on in about a few minutes. I just want to get Mark's reaction to this as regards the use of technology, the level of preparedness by INEC for this election and subsequent elections. Do you feel confident enough, or is it negligence, or is it deliberate attempts, just as our guest has said, to frustrate the process in getting credible results out of our electoral process?
Said the other time, INEC has a point to prove in this election, and it's a litmus test for it. And everywhere in the nation is watching. Some of the reports that are coming, of course, you know, the state has 2,545 100 polling units. So when the reports come in fully, let's see the percentage of polling units where these glitches have occurred. Hopefully it will not be widespread. But you see, I think the election management body should understand the fact that Nigerians are not going to take any excuses for this election and subsequent elections. And that is why I believe that the current leadership of INEC will want to prove a point by doing what is right and is seen to be right in Ekiti State and subsequent election, because it is important. That is the lifeline for our democracy. That is the life of our democracy. That is the blood of our democracy. The election management body, you know, plays a critical, probably the most critical and crucial role in terms of our elections, the outcome, how it's conducted, because how it is conducted, how it is managed is about the credibility of the process. And all stakeholders, INEC being number one, the political parties and the political stakeholders being there, and the security agencies must ensure there's a level playing field. Because there must be, elections must be conducted in a way that nobody will have any cause to want to doubt the process.
We need to pause with your thoughts for now. Okay, we'll come back to you. We just need to quickly connect with our correspondent, Victor, who is actually monitoring the Ekiti elections. That's somebody that will be talking to us right about now. Victor, let's have you share with us what engagements, of course, that you've had and the conversations around the election going on in Ekiti?
It's moved now away from Ugele to Ilakwetu. I'm still at Ikere Ekiti, trying to monitor the elections and find out what some of the challenges might be, if there are any. So I got here just a few minutes ago, and then first off, you notice that there's no longer no crowd here any longer, because there was a crowd here before. Means that many of them had voted, so they're just hanging around waiting for others to come in and vote until the election is concluded in the next couple of hours and 30 minutes or so. But then again, we've seen a lot of complaints from some of these people saying that there's been some kind of vote buying. But before we get into that, let's walk into some of our mamas here, seated as you can see, say they've already voted. But let's quickly ask them what the process looked like. Mommy, Sheti vote. Sheti Debo, mommy.
Ó fine, kò sí ìjà, kò sí ìjà.
Àwọn sọ pé ṣé any issue wá any complaint wá fún yín?
Ẹ̀sùn kankan tí mú kó ayọ̀ ṣùgbọ́n àti dìbò kó Olódùmarè á jẹ́ wọlé láyọ̀ àti àlàáfíà. Èmi gẹ́gẹ́ bí Ìjẹ́rẹ̀ ọmọ Olúyẹdé ní mẹ́ẹ̀yà. Ìjẹ́rẹ̀ lúlẹ̀ ṣàpètù ìbàrìbà ní mo wà. Òun ni mo dìbò ń wo àtàwọn ọmọ mi àtàwọn ará ilé mi pátá. Wọ́n gbọ́. Ṣùgbọ́n ẹ̀sùn kan tí mo yá kó ayọ̀ ọ̀tí mẹ́wàá o. Ọ̀tí mẹ́wàá kó ayọ̀ ọbẹ̀ lọ́rùn nínú àná rẹ̀. Agwọlé láyọ̀ àti àlàáfíà. Màá láyọ̀ lórí rẹ̀. Kẹtẹrẹ alájọrọ̀ rẹ̀. Báà ní àbá. Ìyẹn kú mọ́ mi.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ jókòó sí kílẹ̀ ń dúró dè báyìí. Oh well, but you notice she's saying that the voting process has been peaceful, the process has been seamless, so they're all seated waiting for the entire process to be over before they can leave this place. But then again, there's been some very serious allegations over vote buying. We need to find out from them to give us evidence to see if they have any. So just stick around a bit.
But all of us, we are correcting ourselves in a manner that is very conducive.
So, Daddy Ewa, let's talk to you very quickly. Ballot, Emma Benisa. All I'm going to go back to Debbie by Moboya Tony, I won't parole. In Jay, sure, Tony B. One song for our combi.
Tẹ́rí orúkọ mi ni Awẹ́ Babátúndé Mọ́rẹ́nkejì. Mo jẹ́ onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ engineer. Iṣẹ́ akọ́lékọ́lé ni mò ń ṣe. Mo dẹ̀ jẹ́ politician. Bí kò sí nǹkan tá à ń parọ́ fún gbogbo wa táwọn bí PDP, APC, different people, we are jolly together here. There is no element of giving money or buying votes here. But I don't know the definition of vote buying they are talking about. Keeping people here since morning. And you expect me not to give them coke, Abi? You expect me not to give them water? Is that what we are called vote buying? See, people are buying drinks, buying everything for people to eat. You can't keep people down, get here. At least you must provide for their feeding. Some people are here tarpaulin there to keep people from the scorching sun. See the other unit there. People are there. Either you like it or not, there's no way you can rule all those small things out. But nobody exchange cash for any votes here.
Well, that's the situation here from Ilakwetu. Just opposite me is another polling center. They're all waiting under the tent to ensure that their votes are counted when that aspect of the electionary begins. So, like I said before, the process has been peaceful so far, except for some complaints about the BVAS machine not capturing faces, like I reported earlier, and now some allegations of vote buying, even though some persons will not agree that there's any of such thing. But if we get more evidences to that, more stories behind some of these issues, we will be the first to bring them to you guys.
All right, thank you so much, Victor, for that particular update. I mean, just like you have heard, in that particular part of town in Ekiti, voting there has been very, very, smooth. But just a quick one before I let you go, Victor. On security, any challenges?
No, none at all. None that I've seen. We hope that from what I've observed so far, the momentum remains this way. I mean, there are different patrols of security vehicles that I have seen going from one polling center to the other to ensure that the police officers do not make a mess of their mandate. And for every polling center we've been to, we've met police officers on standby, carrying out their duty, ensuring that there's orderliness and all of such. But we've not seen any major skirmish from security operators. So I would tell you that as far as security is concerned, they've been up and doing, hoping that momentum is kept until the end of this election. Like I said, let's just wait, hope and see. By 2:30, the official time of the conclusion of the election, we can give an assessment of our security, architectural, stuff here.
Thank you so much, Victor. We'll definitely keep tabs. Stay safe. All right, let's go to our correspondent right now in Nasarawa State, Kwanga area of Nasarawa State, Sumaya Abubakar, who of course is monitoring the by-elections, central by-elections there. Sumaya, great to have you. What's the update?
Good afternoon, Amazino. So currently we are at cooperative polling unit 008 in Akwanga West, and I would say this has one of the largest turnout that we have seen so far, because just down the streets we saw the Ofer Sarki Hausawa ward polling unit, which was 028, and the turnout was so low, which was one of the major complaints. But then this one, even with the large turnout, there was earlier there was a problem because the voting started a bit late. But then we have someone here who witnessed it, a voter here, who will be talking to us about what he has experienced. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. My name is Bako Daniel.
All right, Bako Daniel, something happened earlier. Can you walk us through that?
Okay, the voters' machine was a bit faulty, but their technician came and fixed the machine, and the response is going very well. And for the calmness, there's no any issue like that erupted in this particular unit. The voting is peaceful, and everybody's voting whoever he wants to vote.
But then earlier, we did notice some people, shouting, getting angry and showing their frustration. What was that all about?
No, they are only throwing out their frustration based on maybe what they want is not what is happening, but the security agency have brought calmness to the situation, and those people, they chase them out of the voting unit point.
So you're saying those people are not complaining about the voting, but they were just here to disturb
No, they were just here to interrupt the election. They don't just want the election to be peaceful, but the security agents have brought calmness to the situation, and everything is okay now.
Thank you so much, Daniel Bako. So according to them, he's saying that those people that came, because there was a shout spree that took out here, people were frustrated, and the people that their voice was loud, major complaint was because of the delay of the BVAS, which of course disrupted the election and stopped the election from starting super early, the voting process. But then he is saying that it's because those people were just disruptors, and of course it is ongoing. It's a bit slower, maybe because of the number, but the voting is going fast now at this moment. Back to you.
How would you describe the security presence in this area? We did just listen to one of the voters there say that some of the security personnel deployed to that particular area did well to quell any form of unrest that might occur. But in terms of boots on ground in and around these voting areas, how would you describe their presence?
Yeah, Lekan, I would say that so far, based on what we have seen, security men are on ground. From every, polling unit, we've seen nothing less than 2 to 3 security men. And sometimes you see a large number of patrol vehicles moving around the streets, just supervising and checking how the situation is. And due to what happened earlier here, where there was swift response in terms of getting the miscreants that were disturbed disturbing the electoral process out of the way, I would say there's a rapid, rapid response in terms of this. So yes, security men are present, every nook and cranny so far that we have been able to reach, the people have their hope, and they think that the security men are doing right by the whole process. Back to you.
Broadcast. Now, let's continue the conversation, and I want to pick it from the point where Sumaya said Nigerians seem hopeful to participate in this electoral cycle. That seems to negate your own position in terms of probably the outcome. You seem not to share in that optimism. You did see an older woman say that she's hopeful, she's praying that our choice candidate will be the one to win. And time over, we usually see Nigerians express that feeling at the beginning of an election process where they know or they believe that by the time they cast their votes, it will count. But then when we get to the expiration period, when the results will be counted, where the votes will be counted and the results will be announced, then we begin to see a whole lot of new drama play up. So how do you now balance what we see on the ground with how you feel as regards this election?
But what we are witnessing is that the political consciousness of Nigerians are quite high, because the day-to-day run-ins, you understand, or activities or impact of government have directly affected them. So Nigerians want to vote, right? My position is about the process, right? For example, let's paint a situation of a reality TV competition. Maybe let's say like a Big Brother Naija, right? The organizers intentionally, just so that they can add credence to their statistics and voting, and the numbers, they gave it to an independent auditing firm, right? Deloitte. Do you understand? Now, those bodies, they have an independent view and technological tool to gather all of these votes, and they are trusted over time. Now, it brings me to the suggestion, right? INEC needs to also look at handing over the technology that ensures that Nigeria has a lot of confidence in the electoral process to an independent, technological, firm or something, right? There are auditing firms that will give you accurate results. Now, there's a big question. I spoke about it the last time I was on your show. When was the last time we had a population census in this country, right? But everybody has like an NIN or a BVN, right? Is government particular about how many Nigerians are in Ekiti State? Do we have the correct statistics? So for us to correct this process and to ensure that we get the best out of the electoral system, the statistics have to align. Do you understand? When the statistics align, then registered voters can come in. Number one, how many residents are in Ekiti? How many residents registered to vote? Then how many votes do we have, right? Now, this is something that the BVAS technology should have solved. But if BVAS is a software that was procured by INEC, is now managed by INEC, INEC might not even have the expertise to manage this technology. All right.
INEC actually did, in terms of statistics, there you have it on your screen. In terms of total registered voters, PVC collected rate of these PVCs. This detail was also confirmed yesterday, on this station by officials of INEC, saying that, look, total registered voters about 1.59360, PVCs collected 1.28929, and then collection rate about 97.1%. So we are looking at the PVCs collected now in terms of how this election will pan out. But let's bring in Ajibola Adepoju. He's the national president of Victory Advocates of Nigeria. He's in Ekiti at the moment. It's great to have you, Ajibola. Thank you for your time. All right, so let me just ask you quickly, what have you observed so far as regards these elections?
Yeah, thank you. Based on the current observation, I'll be able to capture myself like been to different centers today. I'm from Engr, local government of Ekiti State, and I voted at Ilora during Ward B of that same local government, precisely Unit 18. So, looking at the scenario, I'll be able to check around, asking questions, and one of the findings is that I think our electoral body are getting it right in terms of BVAS machine. The performance has been very, very okay as far as Ekiti State election is concerned. Though I got a report from, they call that place Ibole. So, you know, one of our observers just called and he drew my attention to it. And the attention is that the BVAS was having a slight issue. And I quickly, as an ICT expert, I quickly draw the attention on how they can actually guide, I just guide them on phone. And I think with that development, those INEC there with their technical team, they'll be able to get it right. But when you are talking about turnout, I think we still have a lot to do, most especially our electoral empires, the CSOs, the political parties, even the national orientation agencies, about the need on how to convince our people to join this system. May I tell you that in more than 18 polling units that I've been to today, trying to look at the system of things, looking at how people getting it done, I discovered that people are still not getting the message. And if I say people are not getting the message, I'm talking about people people are still not believing that they are the ones determining the leaders of tomorrow. You know, over 1 million voters registered in Ekiti State. And it will be so bad of us seeing less than 500,000 determine who governs or who becomes the governor of Ekiti State. And this is the agitation for so many days now. 3 days ago, I fortunate with me, my team, and that of the National Republican Institute, we visited the REC of Ekiti. And we are trying to question him that what has been the major things that INEC has been doing in trying to subject or trying to guide our people in even coming out to vote. And he was challenging us that the statistics of those death rates, the statistics of those people who have japa from Nigeria is still yet uncaptured by INEC. Reason being that there is no central statistic that can actually give them the right record of people who are actually not longer in the database we are capturing. Because don't forget, the data registration we are using in INEC now is going to almost 10 years ago. So those people that have even died, you can't even identify, you can't even separate them. So Ekiti now, if we are talking like my polling unit, when I tried to say, okay, let me go and try to perform my civic responsibility, I got there, I discovered, like my own mother now, she's late, and she is still part of the record. The INEC is still capturing as part of registered voter.
You said your late mother is still on INEC's record, meaning that it's not been updated that she's passed on.
Yeah. So, and it's still part of challenges we are facing that is giving us a data that we are working upon. So maybe we will ask ourselves, how many number of active participants or active voters that INEC are having before we begin to judge of what we can call number of people that are not coming out to vote. Because based on ratio now, I discover, though in Ekiti, the state capital in Engr, which is more or less the second largest city in Ekiti, I think the turnout is a little bit high, and INEC has been able to come out MS, most especially the record that the man gave us. I think I begin to trust the electoral empire, most especially the REC of Ekiti, because every of it that I took notes 3 days ago, he began to exercise them. He told us that voting will start as exact 8 o'clock, and we meant our men on major polling units.
Now, Ajibola,
we discovered that, particularly in Nigeria local government, those votes.
Yeah, Ajibola, yeah, sorry to butt in. We'll get back to you on that. I think this speaks to what Muyiwa talked about in terms of digital infrastructure when it comes to processing our elections. And that is a big challenge. But then we'll talk more about that. Right now, we need to bring in Israel Iferobo, who is in Ekiti, in the situation room right there in Ekiti. And he will be sharing some updates with us as regards how the election is panning out. Israel, so tell us, what's happening in your axis?
Town from Ilawe on the outskirts of the state where the ADC chairman, the ADC candidates for this election, Ambassador Bejide, voted. And indeed, we all saw the drama that unfolded, the allegations of vote buying and voter intimidation as well. That's the talking point from that part of Ekiti State. But I'm back here to look at what the observers have been able to gather from the various points across the states. And here is the situation room. There are lots of observers here doing their thing and making sure that everything is running smoothly, getting the data and trying to analyze the data and find out exactly what is going on. Well, joining me here now on this live crossing are two women who will be giving us insight into this election so far. I have with me here Asabe Ndahi. She is a project manager, the Kuka Center. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And also here with me is Vanessa Gregory, program lead at Nigerian Women Trust Fund. Thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with you. The elections, it's now about 4 or 5 hours into the elections right now. What have you been able to gather from the situation room here in Ekiti?
So we run the gender-focused element of the situation room. And one encouraging finding that we have seen is that from the reports coming from the field from our observers, we have seen that data provided for the gender disaggregation of registered voters at each polling unit, once we've done the analysis, actually comes up to the 51%, which is the total the gender percentage of the total registered female voters on the total of the Ekiti register. But one challenge we are seeing is that the BVAS machines are failing to recognize the elderly. And this is something that we want to call on INEC to improve the technology to ensure that vulnerable groups are not disenfranchised. So those are the two things I can say are very pressing from our observations on the field today.
Just for clarity, just itemize them. Number one is what?
Number one is that from the reports we've received from our observers, the total number of female registered voters at the polling units comes up to 51%, which also is the total number of registered female voters on the Ekiti state register.
Is that a positive or a negative?
That is a positive because it shows that the statistics are correct. So if you're going by polling unit and you're seeing that it comes up to 51% and you're comparing that to the total voters register of the state and it is 51%, then we know that when you drill down, it still means that women make up more than 50% of voters in Ekiti state.
So what's your other challenge?
The challenge is that the BVAS machines are failing to recognize elderly people, so they're unable to cast their votes as the BVAS their features are not being recognized. So there needs to be some form of mediation for that, either improving the technology or making a way that a secondary manner for people who get disenfranchised to vote.
Vanessa Gregory, a program lead for the Nigerian Women Trust Fund. Thank you so much for speaking with us. Let's now move to Asabe Ndahi. She's a project manager at the Kuka Center. So far, the election is ongoing. What has been your observation from the situation room?
Okay, we have. I would like to start by saying, on the positive note, the state is relatively calm. The polls are going on and people are casting their votes peacefully. But then as we progress further to the elections, we saw some polling units open late. That's first. That's a problem. But luckily, the people were patient enough to wait for them to come and then organize all of that. And then we did not see open vote buying, but there are a lot of things going on. You see people coming to whisper in the ears. You see other people leading them, like ushering them out of the compound after the voting has started, after they've cast their votes. So we have all of those issues. And then we've seen where they're sharing alcohol at polling units as well, and we do not know what they intend to do with that. We've also seen where a party agent is giving voters other cards to accredit and vote, but we do not know how successful that eventually turned out. But generally, another problem that we've seen is that the roving security observers, they're going in their numbers, in very large numbers, and that seems quite intimidating, because why do you have like 10 cars with different security agencies just going around and they're...
Don't you think they're just there to just protect the people in case there's any sort of violence?
So I beg to differ, because there are already people who are stationed there from the security agencies. To every polling unit we went, we saw about 6 to 7 security agencies. But then the ones roving are coming in very large numbers, and some of them are even coming with guns and all of that. So I think there's a bit of over-militarization of the roving or the patrol security officers.
I'm sure there's a press conference coming up later on, so we'll get more details from you all, the observers.
Yes, surely, certainly. You'll get more information from us.
Asabe Ndahi, project lead, the Kuka Center. Thank you so much for talking to us. Let's just move really quickly now to another section here at the Situation Room, where the people here at TAF Africa have also set up a booth where we will be looking at what they have been up to. I think we need to move in this way. Let's see what they have been up to here. They have been working as well to ensure that they get all the statistics right and to see just how far the elections is going in terms of people living with disability. How have they fared so far? I've got Koho Ionav. Koho Ionav is right here. Koho, it's time for you to speak to us here on television. Don't worry, just get up. Just get up. So, what has been your observation so far from the Situation Room here?
Okay, so from the data we have so far, the election is going on well. As you can look at our data, it is showing that there is timeliness in the beginning of...
Yeah, let's just focus on the camera first.
There is timeliness in our polling units, arrival of electoral officials, INEC officials. They arrived on time. However, there's a little decline in the starting of the voting. And from the information we have here, all our polling units, most of the polling units are accessible to persons with disability, and most of them have been given access into the polling booths with their aides to assist them vote. And most of the polling units have assistive devices like the braille, the large graphics font for persons with visual impairment, and then magnifying glasses for persons with albinism or those who cannot see small fonts. So from the data we have so far, it is going well and it is inclusive.
So that means for those living with disabilities, speaking about inclusion, you are satisfied with what you have seen so far here in Ekiti State?
For a large number of it, but our officials have gone out and there are some spotlight of some other polling units which do not have these devices available for persons with disabilities to make their voting inclusive. However, a large number of them, from our data, from the 150 observers we have deployed, 150 observers to some polling units with a higher number of persons with disabilities, and from that statistics we can infer that the election is inclusive.
Well, Mr. Koho, you're the IT officer for TAF Africa. There is this huge screen here right now. Just tell us exactly what this is about. You can just use one of those statistics now and explain to us what we are looking at here right now.
All right. So if you look at it now, for security, the election is showing that it is very safe. The environment is peaceful. If you look at the numbers, the harassment is not that much. Then if you look at Bray, 27.4% of persons with disability have been given access to Bray. And then if you go to persons who need glasses, 18.75% have access to magnifying glasses. If you look at the large poster graphics 44.11% have access to this. So this means a lot for us for inclusive elections.
Mr. Koho Ionav, you're the IT officer here at the TAF Africa. Thank you so much for talking to us. Well, Lekan, so much happening here at the Situation Room. There are lots of observers here who are indeed monitoring this election, and then we are here also to see just how well the election is going here in Ekiti State. So we'll pan back to you when we do have more information here, Lekan.
Thank you so much, Israel, for sharing these updates with us, and of course the fantastic engagements that you've had so far. We are talking about how elections are panning out, off-cycle elections, by-elections in Ekiti State and some other parts of the state where Nigerians are casting their votes. And we've been talking to gentlemen, of course, in our studios and virtually, as regards how they feel about this. We also have Sesan Okunade, who is a public affairs analyst right here in our studios, and he just joined the loop and he will be sharing his thoughts with us. So let's just come to you now, based on what you've seen so far in terms of the statistics, in terms of the preparedness, the materials available, and some little bit of infrastructural challenges in terms of processing or prosecuting this election. What will be your rating for INEC?
Yeah, maybe to start on the lighter, but let me first say good morning, good afternoon once again, and an opportunity to be with you. When your reporter was actually reporting, one of those observers said something, and I was laughing within myself when he said there were provision of alcohol, and I'm like, is it going to be a jamboree where everybody will get drunk before you get to the polling booth to cast your vote? But that's just what it is. I'm sure it's just getting what they feel that individuals will need to make fun of that particular thing. But based on the report that we've listened to from Israel, I've always said that INEC, they've done their best, most especially the last report from TAF when it comes to inclusiveness on the path of disability. You don't disenfranchise people. But regarding the aged ones, I think we need to see what more INEC needs to do in getting them. I can understand the plight of facial recognition at times when you're getting old, possibly why you made provision of the registration. There were no wrinkles. So what technology are you actually introducing? Then you can look at possibly making use of their thumb, their fingerprints in order to have as alternative rather than actually coming up to say it must all be facial. This is just a test run, like we heard from Mr. President, for INEC regarding the general election that will be looking at 2027. And I want to give kudos to the observers. I think we've seen more of technology-driven observation rather than the usual one where everybody had to wait all night, wait all day before things start happening. So if we can infuse that too into the process, I think it will go a long way. A lot of us have been advocating that one of these days we want a situation where we will not have to come out like this, cast our vote, possibly at the comfort of our home, just the same way they've come up with the tax policy where people can now pay their taxes at the comfort of their home. Same, we want this to happen in terms of our election. And kudos, I will always say that this that we've started, in terms of the calmness, in terms of the non-violent, it's always like that at the beginning of the show. Can we maintain the status quo, till when we have it till like 3, 4, when the whole thing, because where we normally have the problem is when you start having a tip or an hint that something is happening and a lot of people start maneuvering. But I feel with BVAS and the other electronic way of getting some of this result done, we can have less of this chaotic situation, and we can have it much more better. So I'll give kudos to INEC on this part, but let's see how we translate this. This is just one out of 37 states. And you can see even from the security report, you have more security men deployed. Are we going to have availability of such for 37 states, knowing fully well that we might not be able to recruit between now and 2027? All
right. Thank you so much, Mr. Okunade. Let's, of course, go back to our Abuja studio to Mark Adebayo. Mark Adebayo is the chairman of Pan Nigerian Civil Society and opposition alliance. Mark, thank you for staying with us. All right, Mark, now let's look at, across session, the local government areas, of course, that are in these elections, particularly some local governments that some would say are major determiners on how this election might swing. And I'm talking about Ekiti East, Ekiti Southwest, Ayekire, Ido, stroke OC. Looking at what we already have on ground, in terms of the registered amount of voters, those that have collected the PVCs from there, and antecedents in terms of the political climate of Ekiti State, do you see the status quo in terms of these states being major determinants being maintained, or should we expect an upturn, given the potential of the core candidates?
As they say, politics is local. And you must know that the people, the traditional voting patterns in the Ekiti State, I don't see much different that is going to be in this election. I don't see the trajectory changing drastically in a way, but I do know that it's going to be competitive because of the dynamics on ground in terms of the, in terms of the what is playing out in terms of, like I said at the beginning, between the South and the Central and the rest of that. But eventually, those massive voting areas will still have to determine the outcome of this election. The final outcome of the election will have to be determined about those massive voting areas. But I want to make a point, because one of the observers made the point that there are too many security people going around and the rest of that. Please, Nigeria is currently facing some security challenges. You never can tell what can change within minutes. This is election period. This is politics. Things can just change somewhere that the security personnel will be needed. The civil defense alone, deployed about 10,000 personnel for this Ekiti election, and it is necessary because we do know that elections can be volatile. We don't want to change by there will be the calm before the storm. So they must be ready. They must be prepared. If anything goes wrong security-wise, we will still have to blame these security agencies for not doing their job. So the more the merrier in terms of security, because we do not know what the bad guys are even planning for the election. So our security agency must be at they must be up and doing in terms of this election. So we cannot have too many security presence when it comes to election. When it comes to the security of our people, of the electorate, it's very important. We cannot have too many. As for determining the elections, it's all over the country. There are areas that that once they vote, their votes determine the general outcome, the final outcome of the elections. What is important is for us to have a good number, a very good turnout of the voters. If we have something like 60-70%, fine, because we have 1,059,000 registered voters, 1,020,000 collected their PVCs. If we have 800,000, 900,000 and above voting in this election, it will have been very democratic. The outcome will have been very democratic for Ekiti State. The voter turnout thing is the job of because you have these political parties doing their rallies, and you have thousands or hundreds of thousands of people in their rallies. So where are those people in the rallies? Where are they? They are supposed. This is the day that they are needed. This is the day that they are required. Why is it that we are not seeing that the same enthusiasm that they display during electionary campaigns coming to play during the elections? This is the time that you need the mass people to come out and vote and determine their electoral fate. It's very important, because if you don't participate in the process, you cannot go back and begin to complain about the elections, about governance, about the economy, about security, if you have not participated as an active participant, because we, the citizens, are the most critical stakeholder in this electoral process. It's very important. It just means that the political parties and the National Registration Agency are not doing their jobs very well.
Mr. Adebayo, thank you so much. You asked a very important question. Instead of doing rallies, political rallies, we see, sea of heads, crowd at many of these points. And then you ask the question of, where are these people doing elections? You see them, they come out, the old jamboree, right? And then when it's time to really vote, you see numbers come out. So, the question of are these crowds rented?
Or maybe they are AI generated.
Or are they, just like Lekan said, are they AI generated? But thank you so much. The show definitely does continue. We'll be bringing into the conversation when we return from this break. Lanre Arugundade is the Executive Director, International Press Center. Of course, he's at the Situation Room. But before we let Mr. Anjola go, just your final thoughts on this in 30 seconds. You're a politician yourself, right? Looking at what is happening right now, I mean, should eventually what is happening within your party swing in your favor? Because some issues, you are part of the primaries, and then these issues are still being trashed out. But should you eventually end up being the flag bearer? Looking at what you are seeing right now in Ekiti, as a potential candidate, does this boost your confidence going into the polls? Well,
I am certain that there are going to be a lot of stakeholder engagements between political parties and INEC. I think that it's important that, just like I said earlier on the show, that software be updated, right? It is not nice that in 2026, there are live complaints from Ekiti saying that the BVAS is failing to recognize old people. That is not palatable. If that's not going to work as a primary source, INEC must make public, a secondary source for, not to disenfranchise eligible voters, right? People have registered to vote. Your software, your BVAS should be able to recognize them, right? So it's going to be a lot of engagement, you understand, should we get the party's flag to represent the good people of Alimosho. There are a lot of engagements to INEC, and I think that we must stand that these things have to be fixed. Because we do not want to hear in 2027 that one or two people, because they are old, the camera cannot recognize them. That would be a disaster.
All right. Thank you so much. Of course, Mr. Anjola is a member of the ADC. Well, we still have on the program Sesan Okunade is a public affairs analyst. And also at our Abuja studio there, we still have Mr. Mark Adebayo joining the conversation. When we return, will be Lanre Arugundade, is the Executive Director, International Press Center, is at the Situation Room there in Ekiti State. Stay with us. This is still News Central special coverage of the Ekiti Governorship Election and the by-elections happening across Nigeria. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Well, yes, of course, you're watching the Ballot on News Central Television, where we have been looking at the electoral process in Ekiti. We've been touching down in Kano, Rivers, and some other areas, even Nasarawa, where, of course, we understand the by-elections are taking place right there. Now, we do have our guests who have been sharing their insights with us as regards how Nigeria is rolling through this electoral cycle as of now, and of course, how INEC is coordinating the process to ensure that the eventual outcome would be free and fair. Yes, we have Lanre Arugundade, the Executive Director, International Press Center, who's live at the Situation Room in Ekiti State. And right here in our studios, we have Sesan Okunade, a public affairs analyst right here in Lagos. Now, Mr. Arugundade, let's come to you. We understand that about 1.05 million registered voters are expected to participate in the Ekiti elections. Out of that, 1.02 million voters are said to have their PVC. That's about 95%. Of course, in active participation has been expected for this election in Ekiti. Now, in terms of what you've seen as regards voter turnout, participation and conduct of INEC, what do you see? What have you observed? What are the peculiarities that you've also noticed?
Okay, thank you very much. It's been a kind of mixed situation since the voting started. One could see the fact that a number of voters enthusiastically came out, even if they were not, in large numbers. In about 3 or 4 of the polling units that I visited between 7:30 and 9:30 a.m., you had at least about 40 to 50 people already on ground waiting to be
accredited. They were already checking their names, and then they were waiting to be accredited. And one could also see that in those places, officials arrived in time. Although we had reports from our field observers that some did not arrive in time, mainly because of the activities of some of the transporters who, in some instances, dropped the INEC officials and were supposed to return to pick others, but couldn't do so for whatever reason. Now, in some of those polling units, talking about the conduct of INEC, like I said, where I observed, the officials arrived early. And in one particular instance, I was quite impressed by the professionalism of the presiding officer. And I actually like to call his name on this kind of program, Ayo David, who spent about 10 minutes explaining to the voters who had already gathered about how the process would go. And he was speaking in both English and Yoruba to take care of those who might not understand his English. It was good. And they listened attentively, asked them to ask questions. He displayed, the BVAS, explained how, BVAS would work, and also displayed the ballot paper, explaining in particular that they should be mindful how they thumbprint. In fact, he said that if possible, do not use your, big finger, use your, smaller fingers, because if you thumbprint and the ink extends beyond that space, that will be invalid. So at the level of professionalism, that was quite encouraging. However, in one of the polling units where the officials arrived early and the voters as well, the BVAS developed some technical issues after about 3 people had been accredited, and some other INEC officials had to come. Naturally, when you have that kind of delay, it creates, some tension, particularly on the part of the elderly. Some who said they had been standing in the sun, they had keyed up the thing that not test. I should mention too that there was priority voting, and they made it clear. The presiding officers in those places said elderly people will be accorded priority, and those with disability. In terms of turnout, it's always difficult to say in the very early stages. But you could begin to imagine that possibly the overall turnout might still be low. It has been a challenge in Ekiti State, which has been of serious concern to we civil society organizations, especially those of us working under the auspices of the EUSDGN. The fact that in Ekiti you have about 1 million registered voters, and we've been worrying about how many would come out. So if you take the example of polling unit 14 in Ward 11 along Ilawe Road, right? There are 1,119 registered voters in that particular place. And that is because that polling unit has actually been decentralized. In the past, there used to be a huge crowd there, so they had created some other ones. But like I said, between the hours of 7:30 and 10, those that had come either to accredit or to vote were probably between 50 and 70. Things might have changed, but that seems to be the trend in a number, of places. But there's a way in which maybe when there's observation that people are not coming out, parties can still go around and begin to talk to people to come out to cast your votes. One thing I need to mention, which I think is important going forward, has to do with the need for more, voter education. Apparently, there were people who came who didn't know that they would not be able to vote. And this was on the part of some elderly people who came and saw their names and then requested to be accredited. And when the INEC officials said, "Where's your PVC?" they were like, somehow, some of them were annoyed. And they said, we thought once we register and our name is there, we'll be able to vote. And they were asking them, didn't you go to designated places to collect your PVC? They said, no, they did not know. So there was that willingness to vote on their part. And I could see one very old woman, probably above between 70 and 80 years old from her look. And she was so disappointed and was going and was just complaining to herself about not being able to vote. Now, I should also mention this, that, and this should be part of voter education, that voters need to be patient. You see, when you go to that big board where you have all those names displayed, sometimes you may just miss out your name. There was a particular, she didn't see her name and went to another polling unit and was going up and down.
We'll definitely come back to you, but what we have right now is our correspondent Mercy Babajide. She is with the current governor of Ekiti State. Take a listen.
The security agencies must also be commended, and the citizens for trooping out en masse to cast their votes.
So do you think INEC and security authorities have lived up to expectations in this election?
Well, so far so good they have, but in all processes there will be glitches, there will be itches, and I've appealed to our members and our people and citizens to cooperate with them and to be patient. Elections take place in 2,445 wards or units, so it's not possible not to have some glitches here and there. But apart from that, overall, I give them a very pass mark, both INEC and the security agencies.
Okay, some of the candidates in this election of other political parties, opposition political parties, they've been crying foul, alleged intimidation, alleged voters inducement. So, what's your response to this?
There is a saying that a farmer who has diligently tilled the ground do not need fear the day of harvest. Do you understand? We've campaigned in Ekiti. We've been in the saddle for close to 4 years. We have served our people diligently, and today is the day of harvest. Those who have not done anything, who have not sown anything, have every cause to fear. I've not heard of cases of intimidation. I've not heard of cases of inducement. But people must give reasons for failure, especially impending failure.
Okay, now, INEC is flagged out low turnout of youth.
Of what?
INEC, they flagged low youth turnout.
Youth?
Yes, in the continuous voter registration exercise nationwide. And I'm hoping for what specific steps is your government going to take in mobilizing youth to ensure that they know that they're part of the government?
Well, the first thing is to interrogate why they have not been coming out to participate. Once we have an answer, then we'll be able to address the problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is off election. There has been recent cases of insecurity all over the West, especially if that's going to affect education generally. What is your government doing to ensure that there is confidence when it comes to not just the parents, but of course the students?
Well, I cannot speak for Ekiti State, but this is where,
especially in Ekiti
State. In Ekiti State, Ekiti is the most peaceful state in the country, but that does not remove us from isolated cases of criminalities and banditries, But like you said, we have a duty to also secure our borders, and with the speed with which the National Assemblies have passed the state police, I'm sure that they are working with Nigeria Governors Forum to ensure that we also get it passed as a state House of Assembly. Once that is done, I think that all these things will be resolved. Yeah.
Your Excellency, on a final note, the federal government flagged a farm input support program, and I've seen the vast farming area we have in Ekiti State. How is Ekiti State keen into this initiative, and what direct impact should farmers in the state expect this farming season?
Well, I think we should come back to Ekiti State to see what we have done in the area of agric. And I don't know of any state in the Southwest that have cleared 6,000 hectares of land. We have done that in Ekiti State. I don't know of any state that has pulled back to the farm more than 5,000 youths. I don't know of any state that has also reactivated or that have built hostels and accommodations for the farmers. This we are doing in Ekiti State. We've also set up an aggregation company to ensure that we buy back essence of those of their produce, so that we save them from the vagaries of price fluctuation, and we use that to moderate prices when it goes up. So we are doing a lot in the area of agriculture in the state.
Okay, finally on the elections, you are optimistic that you're going to win this election. So if you win the election, what should Ekiti people expect for the next 4 years?
Well, they've seen what we have done since 2022. And in Ekiti State, I have my job actually clearly cut out for me. We have a 30-year development plan that I'm following. So we are just going to go with that plan. We are not changing anything.
Okay, my final question is on inclusion for women.
Okay.
Yes, I know your deputy is a woman, but then is there a way we can stretch it more to include not just women, also persons with disabilities?
Well, in Ekiti State, I think we are one of the foremost states in the countries that have addressed the issue of people with disabilities. I have a special advisor on social inclusion, as he's doing so well. We are the only state in the country that has a therapy center that we run in the state. And we have also included them in our various programs. What I will do, I don't know, CPS is here, and you have to bring them back, let them go around and see what you have done. It's better you see all these things. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
God bless you. Thank you. I have to watch my...
Well, that, of course, is the governor of Ekiti State, Biodun Oyebanji, in a question and answer session with journalists as regards of course, election, the gubernatorial election in his state. And, of course, if you're going to draw inspiration from what he said he has confidence in the electoral umpire in this state to conduct credible elections, whether or not we have a little bit of technical challenges with the equipment being deployed to prosecute this. Let's before we come to Sesan, let's bring Ajibola Adepoju, who is the national president, Victory Advocates of Nigeria, into this conversation to get his feel as regards what the governor of Ekiti State just said in terms of how optimistic he is. I don't know if you also share in that optimism.
I listened to the governor very well, and I discovered that he's talking with confidence. And I can give you the reason why he's talking with confidence. Now, Ekiti State, as you know, look at the former governors, all of them. A lot of people say, I listen to so many comments saying there is calmness in Ekiti, there is this, there is that. Fine. He has been able to establish good relationship with the former governors, who actually are the major determinants of what is happening in our political atmosphere in Ekiti. Look at Governor Segun Oni, for instance, who joined an election in less than 4 months in the last 2023 election. And he became second. Governor Obayanju is able to manage him and bring him to his fold. Look at Governor Fayose, for example. Governor Fayose, ordinarily, if he has been on the street working against the current governor, I don't think this kind of calmness and the confidence that the Mr. Governor is saying, he might be so sure of that. Now look at the Governor Adebayo, who just left the office and handed over to him. He's also on his side, who has also had his own major followers. Look at Otumba Adebayo, the first executive governor of Ekiti State. All these people are in one fold. And if you are a politician and you look at this scenario, if you are not deceiving yourself sometimes, you have to look at it that, oh, this kind of people that control a bulk of followers following one direction, then the governor can sit and say, okay, no, well, let me relax a bit. Nevertheless, I think he's also checking his mind by paying attention to what is happening in the field. Because majority of us, or majority of the observers who thought Ekiti is not having oppositions, by the time you get to polling units today, you discover that majority of the many parties that you think you don't have any, they are actually having their party agent representatives in more or less every polling unit. Then you ask yourself, if care is not taken, the expected kind of vote that Mr. Governor is expecting, he might not get it. One, on the issue of turnout. Two, on the issue of, I don't think he underrates oppositions, but in one way or the other, the statistics so far has shown that opposition is trying their best to also get something out of the matter. So in one way or the other, the confidence that Mr. Governor is expressing, well, let us see the outcome. Because one of the instruction and guideline the INEC tried to push forward is that No public commentator should be able to determine the outcome of an election unless it has been ended. This kind of footage that occurred in Ilawe, that's the home of the ADC candidate. May I tell you that those are the part of the major areas that the commissioner of police that were saying that, oh, maybe they got some facts, that maybe there are some political elements that may try to obstruct the settings of the election. And I listened to him vividly in an exclusive interview. The man told us that when they are talking about the security measures in Ekiti, I think they have put in place such. And I got to so many polling units today, I find security men, at least in each polling unit, 4 of them, apart from the civil defense and the road safety, who are assisting them. So then, we ask ourselves, is it because we are having an up-cycle election in Ekiti? Can this also go across in the general in the 2027 general election? I don't think it can be like that. But nevertheless, it has been calm. The rate of disruption has been so low based on fact and figure. I think on the issue of BVAS that one of your one of the commentator talks about is that I discovered that one of the aged women that have that talent today. I question just a form of personality.
Mr. Adepoju, thank you so much. We, of course, will definitely come back to you. Let's go to our correspondent in Rivers State. That's Biola Festus. Biola Festus, what's the updates with the by-elections happening there?
Yeah, I have to go up now because...
So we are still here on the ground monitoring the by-election in Rivers State. While we spoke to you earlier, we were in Gokana local government area, and right now we are in Eleme local government area. 2 candidates, both APC and PDP, contesting for this election are from this LGA. Well, while we were in Eleme in Gokana local government area, we got some complaints about the BVAS malfunctioning, and the APC coalition officer in that for the Southeast Electoral District did tell us that over 200 units had called in complaining about malfunctions of the BVAS. But this is Element local government area. Let's find out whether the story is the same as it is in Gokana. Well, right here with me is Honorable Laka Wogu, who is the aspirant who is the candidate, I beg your pardon, for the PDP in this local government area. Thank you so much for your time. You just cast your vote now. How was the process?
Well, for me, the process wasn't difficult. And I count myself lucky because the reports are there, BVAS challenge. But overall, the process is working. It's a successful election, but we can learn things from it.
Okay, just like we mentioned earlier in Gokana, we had challenges. Some people said it took them 30 minutes before they could get accredited. But you just walked in a few seconds ago. What was the story with yours?
It's more than a few seconds. I walked in, I went through the process, I voted. I've received reports myself from very many units, but the process is still on, time is still on our side. We are hoping that as the time passes, more people will be able to vote. This morning, there was rain, it was challenging. People did not come out at the very onset. Usually, the crowd is out by 8 o'clock. It took people a little more time to come, and the voting is still on. So I don't want to prejudge the end when we are not there. But overall, it's peaceful. There are no stories of violence. People take more time than they should, but ultimately they are voting. So we are hopeful that this is a successful election.
Okay, finally, with the glitches, this unit alone or what cannot declare the winner. And looking at the fact that there are glitches with the BVAS and other LGAs, do you fear that the process might extend beyond the stipulated time for closing of the polls?
Up to this moment, people are still voting and there is still time. So it's only when it gets to the time of conclusion that if INEC determines that there are more people waiting to vote that have not voted, that they will consider extension. If at the time of closure there are no people waiting, then there will be no need for that. We do not extend for extension's sake. And just that there are glitches doesn't mean the election is unsuccessful. I always believe that we can learn from it. There are things we can do better going into the future. But as of this moment, we have dealt with or survived the challenges. So we can do better. I always feel we can do better. We can get better elections. But it does not mean that this election is bad.
Thank you so much, Honorable, for your time. So that was the candidate for the PDP in this poll. Well, we would also look out for those who are the polling agents for the APC, because there are 4 parties on the ballot. We have the AA, we have the Labour Party, we have the APC and the PDP. So let's just take a walk. I did speak to somebody earlier on who is of the APC, and he was willing to tell us how the process has been. I do hope I find him, if we still have time though. So if you are still with me, let's go to where the ballots are to check for ourselves, and of course speak to those people that are of the APC, since we have gotten to hear from the PDP. Good afternoon and well done on your work. Oh, I see that you are INEC officials. Okay, well, there are INEC officials here. I can't see any party agents here. So let me quickly ask him, how has the process been? All right, so while we were in your sister LGA, that is in Kano, the electorates and of course INEC officials, they tell us that the BVAS has certain glitches. How is the device working here?
Working well. It's working very, very well. Don't have any challenge or issue.
All right, thank you so much. Hello, do you have an opinion about the BVAS and its working? All right, so there you go. There are no complaints about the BVAS here. Voters are still expected to come. There was delay in the voting earlier on because of the rain. And so that's the situation right here in Rivers State on the by-election.
Thank you so much for bringing this to us. We'll circle back with you subsequently as we move on in this conversation. Now, let's talk to Mark. This is the issue that I have with the information coming from the various areas that we've covered, and it has to do with the BVAS, the machine malfunctioning. Sumaya did record that in Akwanga. We also had Israel, the situation in Ekiti, also with the engagement it had with that technology experts, saying that there are also issues with BVAS failure and the fact that it didn't even capture the faces of some elderly persons and they were not able to vote. Also in Rivers State, we also see that in some areas, the BVAS machine still malfunction. So, Mark, how do you feel about it? Because some people will say that, well, these are just isolated cases. And if we look at the overall aggregation of how INEC has conducted this election, if it scores 90%, then that is a pass mark. But then at the end of the day, it is still Nigerians that will be disenfranchised in these areas where the machines that are meant to ensure that people vote, at the end of the day, this fails. Now, how do you feel about this? Mark, I'll take your response, but then we have someone who will be sharing his thoughts with us. That's our correspondent. The name?
Yeah, Enoch.
Okay, that's Enoch right now. You'll be talking to us as regards to what's happening right there. So, Mark, just stay with us. We'll get back to you. Enoch, tell us more. What's happening where you are?
Okay, hi, Lekan. Good afternoon. So the election in Kano, the by-election commenced at 8:30 a.m. in Dawakinkudu, Warawa Federal Constituency. So in the morning, we were at Warawa, and we saw a lot of voter turnout. People came out and they voted. And at the moment, we went to Dawakinkudu as well. Now we are in the Warawa local government area, and currently I have the CP with me. I also have the INEC with me. I'd like the INEC to join me to tell us how it has been so far. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, so sir, how has the election been so far? Did you have any challenge? And just tell us a feel of what has happened so far and what is happening currently.
So far, so good. We have had no issue whatsoever in Warawa, especially fantastic turnout. Voters came in and exercised their franchise without any hindrance. Security is fantastic. You can see for yourself massive deployment and commendation as to both the police and other security agencies. On the part of INEC, we have had no issue with our preparedness and the BVAS work very well. No issue of our application. As you can see, they are virtually completed in this polling center. They have started counting. In some areas, they are sorting the votes. On the whole, it is a very splendid outcome. We anticipated that because we put so much in our planning, so much in level of synergy with security agencies and all other stakeholders. Consider as no one and this is very strange, very unusual about Kano, but it's a sign of the next phase. This is probably the new thing, and we hope to see more of these elections being conducted devoid of violence and rancor. And I want to commend the political class for that, and we hope that we add more value to this. And on our part, we'll ensure free, fair, credible elections and will be just and fair to all.
Thank you very much. So that was the INEC rep, which is Ambassador Zango Abdu, and he said they didn't have major challenges and everything is going on fine. And one thing I realized is that there was a large voter turnout. So I have the CP here, Steve Bakori, who will tell us how they prepared and what to expect in the next election. So can you tell us how was the preparation and what to expect in the next general election?
The preparation is so superb because the commitment of our Inspector General of Police, the annex staff, and all other security agents, you can see us all here, with the synergy and the commitment. That's what informs us how it has to be. We have been having a meeting collectively since last month. Make sure have peaceful atmosphere, secure atmosphere. That's what we are happy today. You can see this polling, it was almost over. There have been counting reports. No any record of insecurity, no threats, and everybody came out and exercised constitutional rights. And we continue this way. Not even continue, we sustain it.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Okay, so that's the CP. And earlier today, one thing I realized was that when we got to a polling center, we saw that there were more women there. And then they told us that the reason why we had so many women there was because, the men came earlier, they voted, and then they went to their farms. And, we had more women voting there. So we just spoke with the INEC rec and we spoke with the CP. And from my observation, there was no major security challenge. Everything was going on fine. And there was a lot of voter turnout. That is the update I have for you at this time. It's back to you in the studio.
Enoch, Stephen, thank you so much. We appreciate your efforts in bringing this to us. We will track back with you also to see if there are latest developments from your end. Okay, so quickly, Mark, I just wanted to get your thoughts as regards these system failures that we're recording in several areas where by-elections and off-cycle election are being held. How do you feel about this, looking at 2027 elections that is coming up in a few months from now?
I think INEC needs to do more with regards to this technology, BVAS technology, because a lot of hope for a credible, free, fair, and transparent election, both now and in the future, is predicated on the functionality of the BVAS technology. I think that they should be able to upgrade where they need to upgrade. They should be able to improve where they need to improve, but it's very, very important. I'm looking forward to that day that I can sit in the comfort of my house and be able to vote online without the stress, because that will eliminate a lot of challenges that we are having now in terms of vote buying, in terms of security, fears and the rest of that. It will go along. I think INEC needs to focus more on the improvement of that technology, on the upgrade of that technology. There should be a system whereby the BVAS must be able to function maximally at the maximum optimal capacity up to 85 to 90% level. We cannot have 100%. You know, we should be able to have a threshold of 75 to 80% of functionality. It's very important because that is where lies the hope to get this election to be able to say, oh, this is credible, this is transparent, because everybody is now looking at the BVAS as the saving grace for this election. It will help INEC a lot to defend itself in terms of the election transparency and credibility. It's very important. So more attention needs to be paid to the BVAS for it to be functional and to be effective and to be reliable in all our election management. It's very important. Right, that is what INEC should invest more on, and to see how this can be done in a way that there will not be any doubts with regards to the outcome of our election. It's very important.
Talking about INEC investing more in BVAS technology, I mean, elections in Nigeria are not cheap. Even these off-cycle elections, a lot of money has been pumped into ensuring that it is seamless. And I still keep making reference to the conversation I had on this station with the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC chairman and also the REC of Ekiti State, asking the level of preparedness. And I put it on a scale of 1 to 10. The CPS said 10. This issue of BVAS, you know, having glitches here and there, is not peculiar to this election. It's something that keeps happening almost every election circle. And monies is still being deployed to ensure that it's seamless. So my question is this, and I'm coming to you, Mr. Sesan, with this question. We see private businesses, for instance, operate things as basic as the POS to run multi-million naira businesses, right? And there are no glitches. Is it a situation of competence here, infrastructural deficiency, or just lack of a culture of excellence?
Okay, thank you very much, Dapo. I was, while Mr. Mark was actually responding to that, and I was asking myself the question that what is the basic functionality of the BVAS? And I looked at the lady that was actually accrediting, and all you do is you come with your voter's card, is able to check it alongside, put the camera in front of you, and be able to capture, to sync what you have. And I ask myself, if that is the technology that we are deployed, what stops us, like a private institution would do, to deploy such to every voters? And I'm just looking at my camera in my house. So if I'm frustrated in the house, it's within the house. Because one thing the government must realize is that when you have this premonition, like the woman that was reported that she had that aspiration to come and vote, and now she's meeting with disappointment because she doesn't have a voter's card. You can imagine a youth who does not have deeper understanding, who has been brainwashed that is an opportunity for him to be disenfranchised because he is not well educated about it. He starts fermenting an issue. But I feel that if this is the process I'm saying, somebody needs to just validate your picture. It's not him that is even validating, it's the machine, which implies that I can use the same machine under the comfort of my home. If it's sync with what I have, it gives me the next step. And we've said this times to that number. Go to various institutions, various associations, they carry out election, you know, on their own, and they have their result without interfering with the economic activities of the organization or association. So I feel INEC needs to take it much more forward. And you know, a lot of us have said, most of the time, when you look at government business, everybody feel it's about government. There are no control mechanism. Because if this is an appraisal of a private organization, and you have this kind of complaint, everybody is talking about BVAS. And maybe an area I was just saying within myself, I was talking to Lekan to say, the Kano we had, you know, glitch-free BVAS, reporting about BVAS, And I was asking myself, was there rain in Kano? Because one thing we know that is synonymous with failure, because the BVAS ride on the internet. Truth be told, it's riding on the internet. So we have one major issue with our infrastructure whenever there is rain. And I'm sure we can all attest to some of these things, the kind of epileptic failure that you get with those network connectivity. That might be responsible with some of the area where you have rainfall this month. But I'm not holding breath for that. But I feel that if the major thing that BVAS is doing, rather than bringing people together, because when people get frustrated, take for example, Dapo, you are being checked and there was no issue and it gets to me and you're using like 15, 20 minutes to get that done. People behind you get apprehensive. And that's where problem, comes up to say what to them. But if you give that opportunity to say what BVAS is doing or what that technology, don't let me say, is doing is to verify your face vis-a-vis what you have registered and approved you. That you can do at the comfort of your home and minimize this idea of recruiting so many. Because I've asked myself the question that, well, are we going to have like 4 or 5 police officers manning each polling booth when we come to 2027?
These are big issues, Mr. Okunade. We'll definitely come back to you. But let's go to our correspondent in Ekiti State, and that's Victor Mbadike. Victor, what's the update now?
All right, thank you. First of all, let me tell you my location. I'm currently at Afao, Ekiti, polling unit 4, St. John Primary School, Kajala Ward 10. And I'll give you very quickly 2 situations. First of all, if you just check right behind me, you still notice that even after at almost 2 o'clock, we see our people lined up, getting captured by the BVAS, which tells you clearly that the BVAS has not really been responding as it should be since morning. I did speak with the presiding officer who said that the BVAS has several challenges and they've tried calling for a replacement, but that has not worked. So they've been managing the BVAS. So the process here has been really slow, and that's why you still have a lot of them still lined up waiting, to get captured, and then before they can go through the voting process. If you check some other persons, they're still seated around, either waiting in line, or they've just also finished voting and just waiting till the end of the process when the elections will be counted, the ballots will be counted. So that's just part 1 of the situation. Then the part 2 of the situation is the fact that, unfortunately, we did notice some voters from the polling booth. So when they cast their ballot and when they thumbprint, they show party agents what they've done. All right, this was actually my presence, and then the party agents, exchanged something that looks like a paper into their hands with some kind of number written on it. All right, and we understand that this voter will now go somewhere secret or a hidden place to put down their names and then get paid. This doesn't really look good. And if you check some of the pictures, you will notice some of them, showing their slip to the party agents, even in the presence of security officers. And I'm also made to understand that it's not the job of the police officer to, stop or disrupt such kind of activity. Their job basically is just to ensure that there are no skirmishes, no fracas, no violence. I really don't understand that. Well, as much as that might make sense, it means that even if you have 1,000 police officers in a polling unit and such kind of incidents go on, it means that they are free to do whatever they want to do. An election where voters will even get assisted by party agents to vote. It's a big situation. Just maybe, it's the reason why we have large numbers at several polling units that we've been to. I'm not making insinuations, but just maybe. It looks like it's a monetized election where people only come out here for the sake of getting the money, not for the sake of getting good leadership.
Victor, let's quickly confirm something as regards what you just shared with us. Did you have any sort of interaction with these people that you saw with slips to actually probably confirm verbatim, from them as regards whether or not this slip translates into monetary gains for them after casting their ballots?
Again, like I said, it is okay to say these are insinuations, but you cannot take away the facts from the pictures, from the videos that you see. They know that we are journalists, and they're also very careful to interact with us. Now, when I took those videos, they were not even aware I was actually there. All right. So the moment they saw that I was there, the officers first of all had to tell them to clear off that vicinity because they saw that I was there already. I mean, if you have something, if there's something legal, I mean, there's no need to be scared of anything. I mean, so, and it's actually done very secretly. If you're not smart, you won't even know what is going on. All right, so that exchange of a slip with numbers written on it is done in such a way that if you're not smart, you will never, ever see it. So it means that something is off. And we've seen something similar elsewhere, but we're not so sure of what was going on. Not until we had those pictures taken. So it could likely tell us, I mean, that something is off and it doesn't look right. Especially when you saw pictures or videos of voters showing their slips to party agents. That in itself is an error. The Electoral Act does not in any way, accept that kind of activity. So that in itself is a serious issue, and that's what I'm trying to say. Of course, I tried to see if I could get closer.
Just to put it in context, I believe the video you are referring to is the one we have on the screen right now, where, of course, we can see people in a bit of verbal argument here as regards who. I mean, it's not audible, but we can actually see activity happen. But Victor, thank you so much, for this update. We'll definitely circle around again. Let's go from you right now to Sumaya Abubakar, who is also monitoring the by-elections, at her side. Sumaya, it's great to have you back. What's the update?
Okay, currently behind me you can see that there's a bit of a back and forth with an agent and the police officers manning this. I have to establish that we are in Akwanga East now. And sir, we are live. Can you talk to us? Tell us what.
No, I will not talk to the police.
But you seem to be frustrated.
I'm not talking to the police. No, I'm not frustrated. I'm not frustrated. Any police.
But you've been calling.
Media, I'm not frustrated, please. With due respect.
Well, it's good that, of course, you're seeing it. As much as he's saying he's not frustrated, he's been having a back and forth with the police, saying that there's been a vote buy-in. We were here when, of course, someone came and was saying vote for APC and all. So, yes, we saw that and we witnessed that. And this back and forth has been going on between party agents where they are accusing, that vote buy-in is ongoing. And then police officers have been doing all efforts in order to calm the situation. But I would say that this back and forth have been going on for so long. So yeah, this is the current situation in Lafia East. Of course, I have to point out that this particular polling unit, that's polling unit 002, voting has been halted a bit because the BVAS also had issue here. Just like the 001 over there also, the BVAS also had issue, but it has been fixed. But then the 002, you can see the numbers of people waiting about the BVAS. This is the same problem that has been going on around Akwanga local government. Even in Akwanga West, we also witnessed about 2 to 3 polling units with BVAS issue. And of course, it's happening here. So in the process of all of this now, there's no accusation of votes buying going on in this place. Back to you in the studio.
I'm still staying with you, Sumaya. Sumaya, you talk about the BVAS issue. Have you been able to really isolate what exactly the problem is with the BVAS? Is it about the handling or the machine itself being bad?
In terms of the BVAS machine, the machine seemed to be bad right now. Now they started voting, of course. It was happening earlier.
We seem to have lost connection there with our correspondent, Sumaya, who is currently in Nasarawa State following the central by-elections there. But let's bring it back to, of course, our studio there in Abuja. Mr. Mark. Mr. Mark, I would like you to speak on these issues that you have, of course, had. I understand that we do not have Mark, so maybe we'll just bring it here to Lagos, where we have Mr. Okunade. Mr. Okunade, a lot. Still the same issues that we have been, talking about, the BVAS. not being functional in some areas or giving challenges, and also the issue of vote buying. These are not novel issues. But here we are again. And the general elections is just a few months away. This is just a state election. And a couple of other, well, I call it maybe mini state. Some would even say maybe it's just a fraction of what, you know, it's a fraction actually of what the general elections will look like. Yeah, and we have a new chairman of INEC, who there are a lot of high expectations. Many have used this election as the benchmark, but sorry, sir. I will come back to you. I understand we have...
You know, about this thing, but we have been witnessing frustration being shared here and there. Now, of course, we have not witnessed the process of the vote by ourselves. The only thing we noticed was just people shouting, vote APC, and there seemed to be some cornering, you know, around this. And I have to point out that because of here being breached, you know, this is where the space is for you to vote, but it looks like it's been breached. So, of course, this makes it easy for vote by to happen, if at all, you know, things like this is happening in this place. So back to you.
All right, thank you so much for that update, Sumaya. Well, just quickly, let's take your reaction to some of the things we've had, Mr. Okunade.
Yeah, Dapo, sincerely speaking, I don't know what to say about this BVAS issue. We all know the role it played in the last election and a lot of accusations. So he kind of gave what I would say lots of confidence on the electoral umpire with 2027 coming. To say we've had different locations now where the complaint has been, BVAS issue. And my question is, from what Maya said last, here is being fixed. So what happened? What was fixed? What happened? So what I'm just insinuating is there is no proper education on enlightenment on the handling of the devices itself. Because most of the time, who are the people that you use for this election? It's not that you have a fixed set of people that you only say you've trained them. And I can tell you, despite that you're making use of the corps, which is a youth service corps member, there are certain set of people that you need to give that training to, like 3, 4, 5 times, to have understanding of how to handle some of these things before you even hand it over to. Because I was just thinking in my mind, if few minutes ago it's not functioning, and it's not that you're actually bringing somebody from Abuja to come fix it up. So what suddenly happened that it get fixed and it's now being put to use? It's like there is no proper orientation on the handling of the device itself, one, or the platform on which that particular BVAS is running. It's having some technical issue when it comes to internet connectivity, because that's what is actually riding on. So a lot of people have asked, how much do we do off internet, where we can have these BVAS work off internet, where people can have their accreditation and a lot of things happening. These are part of the things we're actually saying, that when you open it up, when people get frustrated because BVAS is not working, it's insinuating, and that can create that apprehension on their part. If it is in my house, I'm battling. You just imagine if you want to use bank app and you are not getting through in your table. You'll be battling with your system alone now, and you pass all your aggression on the laptop. But here, you can escalate that in such a way that it becomes where you just raise your hand. No, it might not be intentional, and you are eating someone, and that one feels like he's already having you, and like, why will you have to eat me? He knows that it's actually not that, and that's why I feel that INEC should take it further in such a way that what is actually this BVAS doing? Can't we have it? At least we have much more, so that you have less people who are not tech savvy come out to do this kind of a thing, and those that are tech savvy can do it at the comfort of their home.
Well, Sesan, you just talked about voter apprehension. I mean, we can see it live on screen right there, Nasarawa, where a lot of people are actually angry and they are showing their frustration. Adepoju, how do you feel, or what is your thought as regards the issue of machines being used for our electoral cycle, and of course the issue of vote buying too, because this seems to fall on the table of INEC when it comes to the provision of security personnel people are meant to be on ground to ensure that this process is seamless. But then here we are talking about these infractions and these issues again.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. You know, we are be able to ask this question times without number from INEC. And I think I agree with the last speaker that it says that most of the handlers are the major problem we are having. You know, when Professor Mukita came to Ekiti State to say they came to come and conduct a mock about the usage, the effectiveness of those, what's it called, the BVAS. Do we agree with me that majority of them works? That is when they are using their major tech officers. Then, if we are going into 2027, whereby a lot of people will be engaged, I think INEC should put it upon themselves by ensuring that they train a lot of people on how to use it very well. I gave an instance the other time when someone called me from Igbole, a local village at the part of Ekiti. And now what I said is that what is the challenges in yourself? They are battling with the issue of BVAS that is not recognizing and it's not this and that. I said, okay, you have two options. It's either you use your fingerprint or you use the pictorial this thing. So I said, okay, if the fingerprint is not working, then go to a place where you have a ray of light. You know, all this thing has to do with technology, just a little guide in order for you to have the best use of it. Right. So for me, as far as Ekiti State is concerned, look at that Igede, where your correspondent is showing an evidence. You can know the number of people that are getting discouraged in that arena. So I think, like before, maybe INEC should always prepare not less than 2 machines in a center, in a station whereby when one is not working, another one can actually kickstart. We have the power.
All right.
I think that is the best way. And they should train their personnel, most especially their IT officers should do a lot of work.
All right.
Now, the same BVAS is what we give credit to whatever they are doing. Because I joined the CSO's meeting in Nasarawa Event Center in Ekiti, when the REC and someone in charge of INEC, in charge of ICT for this election, came to come and lecture them. He said there are 2 ways to know the validity of that result. This is the result of Ekiti we are talking about. By the time they capture the image, that is the result sheet on the BVAS, and they will now input the figure, the total figure of that election they got in a particular unit. Now, if they are not working in line with that 2 machine, you know, the confidentiality and the acceptability of election of Ekiti State has to do with a means by which people can verify easily from the IREP.
All right, Mr. Adepoju. I mean, because of time, we of course need to, cut it here. But we sincerely appreciate your time on the show today. Adepoju Ajibola is the national president of the Victory Advocates of Nigeria. He, of course, is joining virtually from Ekiti State. Thank you so much for being on the program. Thank you. You're still watching The Ballot on News Central Television, our special coverage of the Ekiti Governorship Election and the by-elections happening across many parts of the country. Well, I still have my guest with me, or we still have our guest with us here in the studio. I'm talking about Mr. Sesan Okunade. He's with us here at our Lagos studio. Well, joining the conversation right now is Moses Abolade, a peace-building expert. He joins from our Abuja studio. And we, of course, are being joined also by Engineer Muyiwa Obayanju, a public affairs analyst. He joins virtually from Ekiti State. And we still have Mark Adebayo, who's the chairman of Pan-Nigerian Civil Society and Opposition Alliance. Gentlemen, thank you for staying with us. Of course, My name is still Dapo, and I'm still with Lekan.
Yes, of course.
Holding it down. Let's get straight to it. And let me start with you, sir. Engineer Obayanju. Engineer Obayanju, you're in Ekiti State. So far, this election that is ongoing, what have you observed, and are you comfortable with everything that has happened till now?
Thank you very much. So far, so good. I think when you talk of peace, there's generally peace, and across the state, especially this district where I went to, I see orderliness, I see peace, and there's peaceful conduct of the process. You could see security men and women around much more. Where I voted, I think there are about up to 5 of them there, and monitoring the situation. And well, in most areas, just as everybody has been saying, when you look at, I think the governor has really prepared for this day at his inception in this first time, when it was this Omoluabi going with all the former governors, now talking to them, bringing them together, and was able to bring all of them together, even including those from other parties, former governor Lekan from PDP, former governor Shegun from SDP, and then Dr. and even the first executive governor, Ajibola, all of them, was able to bring all of them together, was able to go through all of these other leaders in the state, the senators, the reps, and men of thought, was able to do this to bring them together. After that, then you begin to see, in fact, before it was as if there's no other party in the state. Everywhere you go is bow poster, bow banners, bow everything everywhere. You tune your television, you tune your radio, is bow one advert, bow one program, bow that. So he has really entrenched himself to the hearts of the people. And that is why you are now saying majority of the turnout are just bow thing. So that has been stationed before now. And during the election now, you could see that most people is like where I voted, I think majority of the places there, is bow that they voted for. And talking of BVAS, there are some few issues where I voted, but where I voted, the unit I voted, I give them about 90%, even though there are few that couldn't recognize, the BVAS could not capture them. And you know, there's an electronics technology, I'm an engineer, there are some factors that may respond for that. So sometimes the face where an individual sat, if a shadow fall upon you, the lens will not be able to pick your face, and that may hinder it. Then again, the battery issue. Again, the internet issue, not being able to compare your face with the database is solved within the BVAS system, and some other issues like that. Though you can't really remove the issue of technicalities and technology aspect of it in terms of training, where the people may not well be trained very well to be able to handle it. And just as somebody suggested, because this is just an all-circle election, we expect that INEC will take note of some of these issues being raised so that they're able to do that, because it will require a lot of BVAS for the January 2027 elections where everybody voting at the same time. Right. And it will go well that a lot of people will now be disenfranchised if they are not allowed to vote just as they would have wanted to vote. That's why INEC have to begin to work on that. And as regards the issue of a vote buying, you know, there are some places it is technical. So it's a sign thing that if you are not very smart, just as one of the reporters stated, it may be very difficult for you to get. There is this high code, there's this body code, it's coded. So now it's those people that are expecting.
I mean, that's an interesting angle you are bringing up, sir. Engineer Obayanju, that it's coded, maybe with the eye signs or pieces of paper that is being slipped around. But we'll come back to you, sir.
There's no paper, it's code. Once people that are expecting it, they know, and is that code. Once they know the eye movement, they know the body language, they know how they are going to do about that. If you are there, even as a journalist, you're there, if you don't, you may not even to see, you won't see anything. There are those areas that they even newspaper, they are too open. These places is code. So is that somebody is somewhere giving you eye, somebody is somewhere giving you body, somebody is going there giving you face, where you need to go, who you need to see, and something like that. So I think vote buying has been entrenched in our democratic process, and the security agents need to work upon it.
I mean,
the electoral is against the law there. But unfortunately, sometimes you even see these security agencies there, and it's like, I don't care. I'm not concerned. And so they're just having their thing the way they are doing it. But
Engineer Obayanju will definitely come back to you, because this is an interesting perspective you're bringing to it. But let's go to our correspondent in Ondo State, Ni Balani, who is on standby. Ni, I mean, it's great to have you. What's the update now?
I really wish the conversation I will be having from here would even be talking about electorate, or I'm not saying vote buying is right, but you need electorate to even talk about vote buying. But here at Ishiro Grammar School, Adegboye local government area, we are hardly seeing electorate anywhere. It's very, 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 very dry, very, very scanty. In this grammar school alone, we have about 3 units here. But I'd like to start from the unit where I am currently. This is Unit 7, Ward 8. And just as you can see, you can barely see anybody in front of the INEC officials. They're just sitting there, idle, waiting for the next person to come. I would like to just throw words with them and just ask 1 or 2 things. Please, like how many people have been here this morning to cast their vote?
36.
36. And how many are the registered voters that you were expecting? 899. 899, but 36 so far. That's just the reality. And I'm sure if I go across also, this will be the figure out of 899.
All right, sorry to interrupt you, but we understand that something is breaking right now in Ekiti State Situation Room. We'll come back to you. Please stay with us.
A triangulated election observation methodology combining systematic, statistical, and technology-driven tools to observe specific thematic areas and provide a comprehensive assessment of the election. These include election integrity, election security, disability inclusion, gender participation, peace building, misinformation tracking, media safety, and results verification. The report covers our observation on the adequacy of personnel and materials, the opening of polls, functionality and performance of BVAS, machine for accreditation, voter turnout and participation with particular attention to women, persons with disabilities and vulnerable groups, security situation, electoral offenses, malpractices and irregularities focusing on vote buying, intimidation, disinformation, and access and safety of observers and journalists. This statement should be read alongside our pre-election assessment report issued on May 25, 2026, and the pre-election statement issued yesterday, that is June 19, 2026. It presents our preliminary assessment of the election as of 12 noon, based on reports received from our stationary and roving observers across the state. The statement does not constitute a final assessment of the election and will be followed by a post-election report by the time voting, collation, and announcement of results are concluded. Presence of election officials, condition of election materials, and timeliness of opening. Based on reports from our observers, polling officials were present and election materials, sensitive and non-sensitive, were complete. An adequate number of BVAS, voting cubicle, register of voters, official stamp and ink pad in observed locations. Reports from 246 of the 250 sampled polling units indicated early arrival of polling officials and materials, with the presence of INEC officials at 75% of polling units across the state by 7:30 a.m. Voting also commenced on time, with 69% of polling units commencing accreditation and voting by 8:30 a.m. The functionality of the BVAS machine was also optimal, with 96% level of performance in the observed polling units. However, there are identified inconsistencies in the number of parties and candidates on the ballot papers and result sheets. For example, while INEC's final list of candidates contains 14 names, the Form EC 8A polling unit result sheets provide spaces for 15 political parties, and there are 19 political parties on the ballot papers. Participation of women, persons with disabilities, and vulnerable groups. Reports received from our observers indicate that the voting process was likely inclusive for women and persons with disabilities. The situation reports from about 100 observers deployed to 88 polling units by the Gender and Election Watch of the Nigerian Women Trust Fund indicates that the participation of women, who constitute 51% of the voting population, is relatively high, despite some minor operational challenges. It's noted that women are playing significant roles as polling officials, agents, and voters, with 158, that is 58%, as polling unit officials, 87 as party agents, with the visible presence of women on the voting queue. 2 minor incidents were recorded in polling unit 6, polling unit 6, Ward 11 in Ifaki, Idosi local government area, where a nursing mother was initially denied priority voting, and as well as in Iriwa Ward is the Onu local government area and Ikere local government area, where the BVAS had some difficulty in capturing the biometrics of elderly voters. There were reports that significant participation of persons with disabilities in the election with no significant incidents of harassment. Accessibility measures were visible, with 89.9% of polling units physically accessible, 80.6% observance of priority voting, and 71.4% provision of assistive voting devices in the observed polling units. However, accessibility challenges were observed in some polling units, such as in parts of Ado Ekiti. The details are in the statements. Security situation. The overall security situation is largely peaceful, with the deployment of 5 to 10 security personnel to each of the 2,442 polling units across the states. Voting is proceeding in most of these observed locations without any significant disruption, large-scale violence, or major operational failure. However, the credibility and integrity of the election is threatened by isolated cases of violence and well-organized voter inducement and vote-buying schemes. So far, there are 24 reported incidents of violence across 10 local government areas of Irepodun, Ifelodun, Ado Ekiti, Emure, Idosi, Ilejemeje, Ijero, Iseorun, Boyin, Ikole, and Oye. Electoral offenses and irregularities. Reports of vote buying and voter intimidation were received from across 9 local government areas, where 24 incidents were recorded, with specific cases mainly in Irepodun, Ifelodun, and Ado Ekiti local government areas, to compromise the secrecy of the ballots. Access for observers and media. The election environment was generally conducive for journalists, with confirmed reports of unimpeded access to polling units. There were also significant efforts to combat and debunk false narratives relating to alleged INEC administrative actions, candidate endorsements and withdrawals, party defections, voter inducement claims, and purported incidents of electoral violence. The correct information were amplified on mainstream media and social media platforms. However, in some locations in Engr, Ekiti, and parts of Southwest, Ekiti West, and Ikole, security personnel restricted the access and movement of journalists, while in Engr, Ekiti, party agents and security agents allegedly obstructed journalists from performing their duties. Here are recommendations, preliminary recommendations to INEC: fix any malfunctioning BVAS or deploy a replacement BVAS to polling units experiencing technical BVAS functionality. 2, ensure extended voting hours are granted to polling units that opened late or with the BVAS malfunction to prevent disenfranchisement. 3, allow voters on the queue by the official close of polls to vote with due cognizance of priority voting for vulnerable groups. 4, ensure strict compliance of polling units presiding officers with Section 39 and 40 of the INEC regulations and guidelines for the conduct of elections 2026 on closing of voting procedures and electronic transmission of results. We're also calling on INEC to ensure immediate pasting of Form EC60E at the polling units and the instantaneous and real-time uploading of validated polling unit results, that is, as contained in Form EC8A, to the INEC Result Viewing Portal, IREV, as soon as counting and recording of votes is concluded. To security agencies, we urge them first to maintain professionalism and absolute neutrality in the electoral process in compliance with the Code of Conduct and Rules of Engagement for security personnel on election duties. 2, they should intensify vigilance around the polling units to arrest those engaging in vote buying and voter intimidation. 3, the security agents should accompany polling unit presiding officers to the designated collation centers to ensure the sanctity and safety of the sensitive election materials. And finally, for the security agencies, they should reinforce security at the designated collation centers to prevent disruptions and breakdown of law and order. Our recommendations to political parties and candidates: 1, they should desist from weaponizing poverty through voter inducement and vote buying. 2, they should restrain their party agents from unruly conduct and behavior at the polling units and collation centers. 3, they should admonish their supporters to remain law-abiding and refrain from acts of thuggery and violence. And 5, for the political parties and candidates, they should respect the choice of the Ekiti people. To voters, our recommendation: those that are yet to vote should go to the polling units and exercise their franchise. They should reject financial inducements and vote freely without coercion or intimidation. And they should protect the secrecy of their ballots. To the media and election observers, we urge: 1, that you verify all information before publication to avoid reporting fake news, misinformation, and disinformation. 2, we recommend that you await the official announcement and declaration of results by INEC at every level of collation before publishing or broadcasting election results. 3, we urge that you should continue to monitor the result collation and declaration process and provide the public with a comprehensive and accurate picture of the process. And finally, for media and election observers, we urge that and we recommend that you report any threat or denial of access to election collation centers. Closing note. This is a preliminary time-bound assessment based on information available as of 2 p.m. today. The EU ESGN Election Observation Hub will continue to monitor the remainder of the voting process, the collation and announcement of results, and will issue a further statement at the end of the election. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. So that's the preliminary statement. At this point, we'd like to ask if there are any questions from the press. All right, there's a gentleman at the back. Please just tell us your name.
And that is Lanre Arugundade, the Executive Director of International Press Center, giving a preliminary briefing from the situation in Ekiti as regards how the election in the state is panning out. And it did share some interesting facts as regards what was observed by the electoral observers in the state. And I will be bringing Moses into this to get his feels as regards this. Moses, let's look at the markers. Now, Larry talked about the security situation being peaceful, that the provision is relatively good. He talked about the electoral environment being conducive for journalists compared to what we've seen before. He talked about, voting inclusiveness index has been relatively good also, while we also saw timely deployment of voting materials and arrival of these materials at various polling units. Well, within the course of this, he did talk about misinformation, disinformation, vote buying, vote intimidation, vote inducement claims that we've seen, not only in Ekiti anyway, in some other areas where by-elections have been held. And he also talked about, the provision for political parties in the form EC8A, where he said have not been adequate. So when you put all these together and you are to give a scorecard to INEC as regards how it has conducted the election in Ekiti State, what will be your verdict?
Okay, thank you very much, Lekan, for that. And I would just say that maybe not a direct verdict. Maybe we have to tell us to keep learning from the process. This is more of like a fraction of what we are going to have in 2027. So it's important that we see what we can learn from this. From the peace building lens, it's important to say that we need to look at the root causes of this issue. Why had they vote buying in the first place, despite the people understanding that this might be a transaction for their future? Why is it that it still persists despite a lot of things going on in the country? Is it ignorance? Is it poverty? Is it economic hardship? Why is it that people, despite them knowing that these transactions are bad for their future, they cannot say no based on what circumstances? So the work of CSOs, beyond those at the front line doing very great work, which I really salute the work going on there, our colleagues in the situation room and even on the field. Beyond that is us going beyond and looking at what research. We need to do some other baseline research or to understand why these are the way they are, not just by assumption, saying there are general assumption of, oh, maybe it's poverty, it's economic hardship, it's ignorance. Those are generic. But we need to find out beyond accusation, beyond the fact that we need to also hold people accountable and make major arrests so that offenders will know that this is a no-go area. And if we are lenient on this, we will give a precedent that this is possible in the main election. So we must, aside from managing it on a conflict management, confrontational way, by stopping it and by showing offenders that this is a no-no, we must also study beyond that. Why is this behavior persisting in our country? Because this is just a show that it will still happen again. And just like one of the speakers earlier said, that is beyond, is even, people are also developing, the more the act or the laws around it is becoming more firm, the more we see that these people are also developing different tactics to bypass these corners or these issues. So we must now also go one of 4 or 5 steps ahead to think through how, beyond just stopping them, how can we destroy this habit? It's becoming an attitude. How do we actually bring it out? And that also talks about governance. Most of these communities have been impoverished in a lot of ways that no matter what they have been enticed with, they will find it attractive. So how do we ensure that we stop making these things attractive for people? And that also means that the governors in such localities have not done enough to cater for the human security of these people. Because if you are human secured, if you have some things in place, you will not be easily induced by this other attractivity. But beyond poverty, we have seen people that are not poor in the real sense of poverty, but they are moved to just, oh, let me just go and take this. We must see how to really deal with the root causes of this attitude. And it's also a sense of, there is a lot of awareness that we need to do, especially with NOA and other agencies, and especially going to issues of participation.
Mr. Bolade,
that is another issue we are having.
I mean, these issues that you have mentioned, I mean, they're, like I've said a couple of times, on the program today, they are not novel, right? Every election cycle, we see the issue of, if it's not technical, it's logistical, it's vote buying. And we've had a lot of, will I call it reforms, electoral reforms, to make things better, to make it swifter, more transparent, ensure it's more credible. So my question to you is this. This election right now, for many Nigerians, is a litmus test. Post the election, the electoral reforms that we just had, some few weeks back. And we are talking about the main elections here. I'm sure for many Nigerians, they are tired of these constant circles. And that's why we are beginning to see consistent lower voter turnout, because many are beginning to even question the credibility of the process. So I'm going to ask you, as somebody who is entrenched and who, of course, is a political observer who has seen various election circles, what really is the missing gap here? How do we ensure that, number one, the issue of BVAS is permanently sorted, right? How do we ensure that the issue of vote buying doesn't become a norm? Because that's what it appears to be right now, and that's what is making elections pretty much expensive. How do we ensure that voter turnout is enhanced? How do we ensure that the results, and the process itself is transparent and very accountable? In 30 seconds.
Thank you so much, Dapo. But me and you know that those things you've listed cannot be discussed in 30 seconds. But just to say, is a web of a lot of things, but we need to pay attention to what is causing this. Why is it that people are losing interest? Nigeria, over time, we knew that there was what happened during Abiola and King Ibe's time, and you see people coming out because they trust the system, despite the fact that they are not even sure of what the outcome will be. And that in itself really has brought us to a chain of mistrust. Until date, we are still battling with it. And I think there's a lot of legal corrections and engagements we need to do, especially when it comes to who appoints who, which is from the head, from the leadership of INEC. I've always been an advocate of the true independence of INEC, because if INEC is truly independent, by virtue of his appointment, of his leadership and everything, and solely independent, and I think we still need to deal with how the structure of appointing either chairman or everything, because that comes into being. Just like in mediation, in peace building, a mediator, which INEC is like a mediator in this case, a mediator must claim neutrality in all fronts. Even a perception, the perception that you might be biased in any way, or you are affiliated to anything, or being constituted by one of the parties in conflict, is an aberration, which should be the prime way of dealing with. If we have settled that, it will now come down to every other form of appointment. That is on leadership. That is on the neutrality of the umpire, which is important. And I think we're already in a cycle. It might be difficult to go through that. But immediately we come into any government, come into power, we must deal with that root cause. If we don't deal with it and we keep pushing it away and we keep following it, we will keep having other ripple effect. But that is on one side. Issue of trust is about people believing and experiencing or following what they experienced the last time. It's always good during election. We even have it better here. It's always good when we are voting. The major thing always starts around 3, based on experience. The last one, around 3, 4, 5. That is when we start moving. But I want to believe that they are doing better, but we can do much more, much more. It is important that we pay attention to how people perceive the result and the outcome of this. It is a deficit and a sense of, do we actually trust this system? Do we trust the procedure?
Okay.
If people trust the position, people will actually come out. And I think this is not a bad turnout, but we can always do better.
Okay, thank you so much, Moses, for sharing your thoughts with us. Engineer Obayanju, let's talk more about what, of course, Dapo did mention in terms of how do we deal with the perennial issues that usually emanate or that we do witness in our electoral system. Now, we know what the Electoral Act says when it comes to infractions. The laws are there, the rules are there, ink on paper. We have security operatives being deployed to these areas to ensure public order, to ensure that people do not violate the rules of engagement, ensure that there are no voter inducements, there are no voter intimidation at these polling units. Is there a challenge when it comes to implementing these rules? Moses talked about accountability and arresting perpetrators of electoral malpractices at these polling centers. Why are we not seeing this? When INEC has come out to say that these security personnel have been trained, they've been told what to do, why are they not doing their jobs while they are at their designated areas? Is it that maybe there has been, at the surface level, an instruction given, then at the back end, there's a B instruction given to these people? What do you think?
Thank you very much. I think what is happening really is what you have just said. You see, to me, I wouldn't blame INEC that much because I know INEC may have their own fault. The independence may be the problem, but then the INEC cannot be in all the polling units. So therefore, it's not possible for INEC to be able to monitor all the polling units within the Ekiti state. And by extension, across the country, maybe by the time we're having the presidential election next year. But then you see a situation where one of the players is powerful. When you have an incumbent governor, then when you have an incumbent contest with others. And to me, the way I just see it is that there's this boldness in the hearts of the people that, whatever happens, it's like the governor may not be able to do anything about it because it's incumbent and probably it's part of the player. Like my own experience today, I have to go and accost somebody and say, because when I see that person decide where you need to vote, I go to her, I say, are you there to monitor those that are voting? He will say, what are you saying? I'm not trying to monitor anybody. I say, okay, if you're not monitoring anybody, leave the place because you can't begin to stand behind my back to know who I want to vote for. It's my right to do it. So now that kind of things that you could see that boldness. And now while I was talking to her, there are security agencies everywhere there, and you couldn't see them stop it. So it's like those that are participating also, they are part of it. You see, somebody was talking the other time about weaponizing poverty. Now, a situation where people felt that that's the only thing we can get. And so now let's get it from them. Or a situation where they felt that the democracy we practice is not people-oriented. Now, it is just about the individual. So as soon as they get there, they forget about the people. The policies, the programs, and every other thing does not trickle down to the people. It doesn't translate and change the lives of individual. So they see that, well, this is the opportunity. This is the only thing I can get. Now, let me get it. Then when you have, in those days, we do have our national orientation agencies doing much work. But that nowadays, you hardly see them doing much of the works in voters' orientation and information dissemination to the people to show the fact that this thing is very bad. So when this one is not there, and the people feel that, well, there's nothing at home, if I can get 10,000, 20,000 as the case may be, so let me get it. Maybe that one will get me some rice and whatever to prepare food for my children. And again, when the law enforcement agents are not being able to perform their duty effectively, so it's like people know that there's nothing will happen. For example, like I was telling the other time, is body language. You need to understand the code. If you don't understand the code, even as you are there, if you are those polling units, you won't see anything. Those places where you see them, the distributing papers, they are too open. Now, it's code. There's somebody that will give the height, there's one that will give the body, there's one that will point your attention to where to go to, and that person will use eyes to pick you to where you're supposed to go to. So that kind of high-tech system, where it is. So now, and for anybody to get that one, there's no NEC official that will be able to discover that. Probably if you have some of these DSS people or whatever, so that they are there and they are able to know that this is the way it is. So that's exactly, I think, it's a very strong challenges, and I'm not sure that thing is going very soon, because it's not as if there are people are not talking about it. There are people like us that will talk everywhere, most of the radio stations in the Ekiti State. That's one of the things that we advocate for. We talk about the people at the fact that you must not take money. In fact, I used to tell them that anybody that's giving you money is telling you that it's not doing anything. If somebody has done something, you should be able to show what he has done to convince you. But by buying the vote from you, shows that he has nothing. And it means that whatever he gives you is what we're going to deal with for the next 4 years. Because at the end of the day, if he goes to borrow that money or he pay that money, he has to recoup the money back. So there are lots to be done. Voter education, value reorientation, security being able to bite and not to back alone. Because there's one thing of saying, no, don't do this. It's another thing of really being able to monitor it effectively. And the police, the officers that are there should not be seen to maintain orderly alone. They should be able to be part of the body. Again, when you look at those officers, it's something we tell you as if these people have been promised. I said, don't worry, your own is somewhere. Just do this thing we're going to see. Because when you see them that they are lackadaisical attitude towards the whole thing.
All right, Mr. Adebayo, thank you.
These are some of the issues.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. But just to bring you up to speed as regards the elections happening, not just in Ekiti State, but also the by-elections happening across the nation. Vote counting has started in some parts. For instance, in Ekiti State, vote counting has started at Ologbodo unit in Aramoko, Ekiti State. Vote counting has started. You can see footage there on your screen. Also in Ondo State, the by-elections happening there. Vote counting has started at unit 007. That's Isaro Grammar School, Odigbo, Ondo South. Vote counting has started there. You can see that. Let's take a listen to what is happening.
13,
13,
14,
14,
15,
15,
16,
16,
17,
17,
18,
18,
19,
19,
20,
20,
21,
21,
22,
22,
23,
23,
24,
24,
25,
25,
26,
26,
27,
27,
28,
28,
29,
29,
30,
30,
31,
31,
32,
32,
33,
33,
34,
34,
35,
35,
36,
36,
APP 1.
1.
Come on. Now on your screen is, of course, vote counting in Unit 007, Isero Grammar School, Odigbo, Ondo South. Voting has been concluded there and the counting is happening.
So we can hear from the presiding officer here at Unit 7, Ward 8 at Isero Grammar School in Odigbo, 007. They had 899 registered voters, but only 37 accredited, I think one was void, and 36 people were the only one who actually cast their vote. That tells a lot about the voter turnout and what we've seen and observed so far across the various polling units in Odigbo local government. The scenario is a little bit different from what we saw at Ekiti local government because there were quite a number of people out there, and that has been linked largely to the fact that some of them said they had candidates. But here, the scenario is different. But the party agents are here, and of course, the presiding officer is packing up everything now, and they'll move to the rack center. And once they move to the rack center, we'll also follow them through to the place and get more information. Okay, but I would like to just speak to any of the people I can see here. Please, are you with me? Ekasasa. Ejo, she Ewa Diboni, abi party agent ni? Ewa Diboni. Eje ka bẹ̀rẹ̀ pẹ̀lú orúkọ yín sir.
Orúkọ mi Adebayo Frederick Olárewájú.
Okay, kí lẹ rí sọ sípa ìbò yìí àti gbogbo ẹ̀ ṣe ṣẹlẹ̀ lénìí?
Lákọ̀ọ́kọ́ a dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ Ọlọ́run fún ìbò tá a dì lénìí. Ìbò tá a dì lénìí mo rí pé ó lọ ní ìrọ̀wọ́rẹsẹ̀, kò sí wàhálà, kò dẹ̀ sí ìjà. Bá ṣe bẹ̀rẹ̀ àbẹ̀rẹ̀ láyọ̀ àtàlàáfíà dẹ̀ parí láyọ̀ àtàlàáfíà. So nǹkan tí mo lè sọ ń pa ẹ̀ nìyẹn.
Nípa èrò ńkọ́ àwọn èèyàn ṣe rò pé àwọn èèyàn máa wájú báyìí lọ ni àbí ṣáwọn tó wá yẹn ṣó wà òkè ni?
A ní lọ́kàn pé ó yẹ káwọn èrò wájẹ lè lọ, but ìbá wọn tó wà yìí náà òkàlùkù wá wọn dẹ̀ dìbò.
Kí lẹ rò pé ó fà á táwọn èèyàn fi jáde?
Nǹkan tí mo kàn rò pé ó fà á táwọn èèyàn fi jáde, àwọn èèyàn ò fi bẹ́ẹ̀ gbọ́ pé wọ́n fẹ́ ṣe irú election tó wọ́n ṣe lè ní, but suddenly something ni election, but àwọn tó dẹ̀ wá wọ́n wá láyọ̀ àtàlàáfíà wọ́n dẹ̀ dìbò wọn, kò dẹ̀ sí ìjà, kò sẹ́nìtì. So thank you, sir.
All right. So he's mentioning that aside the fact that we have a low voter turnout, the election process was quite peaceful. Everything went according to plan, and he's attributing the low turnout to the fact that the timing of the election was quite sudden, and they didn't have he's guessing the politicians didn't have enough time to run campaigns and sensitize the people more and to have them come out. But that's the situation on ground here. For the Unit 7, things have ended here, and we're following them to the rack center.
Confirm something from you, because I know you did engage a couple of the residents pre this by-election in Ondo State, and you referenced the fact that some of the residents said they would not be stepping out to vote. And I just wanted to find out what you meant by saying, of course, with the other person saying that they didn't know that it was sudden. Is it that there were no awareness campaigns or maybe voter education in Ondo State pre this particular election, and that is why we are witnessing a low turnout? Or maybe it's because it's a senatorial election, a senatorial district election, that's why people feel or seem disinterested in participating?
According to them, it didn't seem as if the whole time or date scheduled for the Ondo South Senatorial by-election was stated beforehand. In fact, when we first got to Ondo State, majority of the journalists we met on ground said they were going to Ekiti State because at the time, the announcement of Ondo South Senatorial District election coming up had not been announced. It was not announced earlier, so most of them had registered for the Ekiti elections, only for the information to come out that the Ondo South Senatorial by-election will also be coming on the same day, and they didn't want to have some sort of double registration. So that's why they had to just, do whatever it is right now that they can do, and the focus stays with the Ekiti election. So there really was not enough time for people to get sensitized, for people to know that, oh, there's going to be an election in Ondo for replacing. And let's put this on record that it's the vacancy at the Red Chamber, because the senator represented in Ondo South, Senator Jimoh Ibrahim, has been appointed as a permanent representative of the United Nations, and that's why they're now looking for someone to step into that role. I'll also quickly have a fire chat with this gentleman.
Orúkọ mi ni Ọ̀kẹ́ Ọláwálé.
Okay, ṣé wá dìbò ni àbí party agent ni?
Dìbò ni mí.
Dìbò ni. Kí lẹ rò pó fà tí àwọn èèyàn ò ṣe jáde ní èní wá dìbò?
Nǹkan tó ṣẹlẹ̀ ni pé kò sí campaign much. So àwa tá a wà pé a wà tá a jẹ́ bíi party real party tí ò kì í ṣàwọn aráàlú.
Ó tẹ jẹ́ party member lẹ́ ń sọ àbí?
A jẹ́ party member.
Okay, belong to a party.
Àwa nìkan la wà wí ẹ̀ pé election wà ní èní, àwọn aráàlú most wọn ò mọ̀ pé election wà ní èní, so nǹkan tí ò jẹ́ kí èrò pọ̀ ní ibi báyìí ní èní nìyẹn.
Well, you've heard it from him. It's almost like most people don't know, except you belonged to a party. And of course, during party meetings and sensitizations, they would pass that information out that there's going to be an election to replace the vacant seats they had at the Red Chambers. And that's why he got to know, which means majority of people who are not party-carrying members, they might not have that information because there was not enough time to campaign. There was not enough time to move around and, of course, sensitize the people. So maybe that's one of the reasons why we have very low turnout, because this is quite low. For this particular place, 899 registered voters and just 37 voted. 1 was void and 36 only accredited voters.
Thank you so much, Nee, for that update. Definitely we'll circle back as the process continues. Let's go straight to our Abuja guest at this time, who, of course, is Mark Adebayo. Mark, we just have a few minutes before we wrap this up for now. What do you have to say with everything that has been observed, particularly now that the counting process has commenced at some polling units?
This issue of very low, abysmal voter turnout. I think it's the responsibility of the political actors, the political parties, the candidates themselves, to do more on this aspect. It is their responsibility to campaign. It's their responsibility to canvass for votes. It is their responsibility to create awareness around the elections. But you see, sometimes you see the political class take Nigerians for granted. Just believe because you give them 500 naira, 1,000 naira, you don't need to go. But a time is coming that if care is not taken, because you see from 1999 to date now, the trajectory of voter turnout has been very getting low. So we are having about 1/4 or less of what the voter turnout used to be in 1999. Now we are having just about probably 15% of what voter turnout used to be in 1999. On the issue of vote buying, now that's not the responsibility of INEC, actually. You know, INEC, the laws are there. The laws cannot enforce themselves. It's the responsibility of the law enforcement agencies to make sure that vote buyers are apprehended and prosecuted to the full extent of the Electoral Act that has stipulated that there shall not be vote buying or selling. But they are not doing their job. That's not, INEC cannot enforce that. INEC can monitor and file reports about particular individuals who have bought votes and hand it over to INEC does not contest votes. INEC does not contest election. INEC cannot buy election, cannot buy votes. INEC cannot sell votes. So it is for the INEC to monitor and conduct elections. But it is killing our democracy. It is killing the credibility of our electoral processes when people, willingly sell their future, their commonwealth into people that are coming into office to recoup their expenses rather than develop their
Thank you so much, Mr. Adebayo. I mean, your point has been well put, but I'm also made to understand that joining this conversation now is Nelson Ekujimi. Mr. Nelson, it's great to have you. We just have a few minutes with you. There have been issues that have been raised as regards these elections. A part of it is moves from BVAS, issues to the issue of vote buying, particularly. I would just like, in a few minutes, In terms of the quality of our elections, because this is a litmus test to the big election in 2027, would you say that there's substantial progress in its conduct?
I think we must recognize the remarkable progress we have made with regards to our elections, not even talking about these elections. You see, if you understand how the election process runs, you appreciate it rather than submit to people who sit down behind their system and they run down the electoral system. So this election, like you and I know, has been conducted according to law. The provisions of the law is very clear that for you to be able to vote, you must come to the polling station with your PVC. And when you get to your PVC, there's a machine that will accredit you. We have seen some places where the machine was slow. We have seen some places where the machine malfunctioned. In fact, there's a particular polling unit on Ekiti Road where I just left. They started late because of the malfunction of the BVAS machine. And from Ekiti to Aramoko, I didn't see any other polling units that the machine didn't function. But I saw in some places where people were complaining that it was slow. But people came out and they were willing to exercise their franchise. So when votes have been, when the machine accredits you and you are given a ballot paper, which you thumbprint and you put into the box, what can be more transparent than that? So the progress we have made with regards to our elections today, just like in recent past, is comparable to any elections anywhere else in the world, except if we want to behave like the ostrich. We don't want to admit that, look, we are past where we are coming from. I listened to one of your guests there, Mark Adebayo, talk about the decline in voters' turnout. One of the reasons why we have a decline in voters' turnout is because the electoral umpire has put in place a lot of mechanisms that have limited the chances for electoral malpractice. If you remember, under former President Olusegun Obasanjo and Morisiwu, in polling units where there are 500 registered voters, 500 will come out and vote when the election is concluded. And you ask yourself, how is that possible? That 500 on the register and you have, in fact, in some cases, if you remember, because a lot of the elections conducted by Morisiwu were voted by the courts. In some cases, in polling stations that had 500 voters, 510 results will be returned, meaning that they even overplayed the malpractice. So our election has become one in which you can no longer vote by proxy, has become one in which if the machine does not accredit you, there's no way you vote. But if you force your way through, be rest assured that the collation officer is going to void the vote from that polling unit, because the collation officer will look at the figures from the BVAS machine, and if the votes cast does not tally, so once the vote cast is more than what the BVAS machine records, that means electoral malpractice has taken place, and under law is obliged to cancel the polling unit result. So we have made progress, and we have also seen it today. One thing that also made me happy about this election is that, unlike other elections that we have had, where our children, our youths, take to the field and take to the streets and the highways, turn them into football pitches, none of that has happened in any way in Ekiti.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Nelson Ekujimi. Nelson, you would also be joining us on our 3 o'clock news bulletin to, of course, speak more on these matters. But would like to say a big thank you to all of our guests at this time. Mr. Mark Adebayo, thank you so much for being on the program. Moses Abolade, thank you. And, of course, we still have Nelson Ekujimi anyway. It's still the Ballot News Central special capture of the elections in Ekiti. That's the governorship election in Ekiti. And also the by-elections, happening across some parts of Nigeria. We'll, of course, be going straight to the news bulletin at 3. Stay with us. It's still the Ballot. We'll be right back.